Hey there, gosh, I can't even talk right now. Hey there, everybody, and welcome to all the folks who have been gifted memberships and are, of course, enjoying some bonus content here with Cortana and myself. So for today's video, we are going to rank iconic duos. I think I got just about every team in the NHL. Now, granted, there are some teams that are newer than others, so it is a bit of a stretch, but I wanted to make sure I represented all the teams as best as I could. I also just went to a bunch of websites and because they actually have some rankings for duos like that. So I pulled as many options for this as I could just overall. So hope that you guys enjoy this one. Mike, Chance, Riley, Kevin, Nick, Jake. Did I say your name already? Hey guys. Ernie, what's going on? Crosby and Malkin. Yes, they do I have them on here? I'm pretty damn sure I do. I've got another iconic Pittsburgh duo as well. Okay, cool. Galchenyuk. Yeah, man. Oh, God, that I'd have to read more. You know, I don't like to judge, but yeah, that's horrible, man. But yeah, the guy probably needs a lot of help. Yeah, we got Kane and Taves. In our league, one of the players literally kisses one of the players. That's funny because actually this photo of Gaudreau and Kachuk makes it look like they're going to exchange saliva. Thomas and Kyrou. Oh well, I do have at least one, if not two, of the Blues duos on here. I've got one. No, I've got two on here actually. But anyway, just give me a sec here. I'm going to pull up my screen. Also, if you do want to join the rankings face to face, we could possibly do that. We do have a fair amount of people here, so I don't know exactly how this is going to go. Let's see. Do I want to do this now or should we try this out later on? All right. You know what we'll do? If you want to hop in and chat face to face, and we can get this started, we can do that. We'll see how that goes. I might just then cut back just to the rankings themselves. But yeah, feel free to join face to face here. The thing is that we do have, I think, 39 different tandems. So it's going to take a long time to get through these. So I can't do a whole lot of chit chat, but we can certainly at least give it a whirl at first. So you can come on in, say hello, let us know especially if you're a first timer, these streams, who your favorite team is and that sort of thing. Jake. Oh, Jake, nice jersey.
Thank you.
And of course, what we do here is we write down all of our results. So then that way, because I like to grade on a curve, right? We can't just have, B's and C's the whole time. But in this one, we actually have, I'm going to pull up my screen right now, if you don't mind. You don't have a single jersey ... yet. Let's see here. There we go. Awesome. So look at that. We've already got. Hey, Riley, we got you here. Oh my gosh, everybody's hopping in. All right. Oh shoot. Why won't it let me actually? Oh God, do I have to do this?
No. Yeah, Riley's frozen. So
there's Mike. How you doing?
What's up?
And we've got Kevin. Hey, long time no see.
Hello.
All right. How's the off season treating you guys?
So far, so good.
All right. Well, and what we can do here is with a handful of people, we can, get people's opinions directly face to face here. Just take a few minutes or a few seconds, I should say, to give us your opinions, and then we'll kind of see what everybody else is thinking. So what I need to do here is I need to, Afton, how you doing? Happy weekend to you. A Fleury jersey for $7,000 online. Oh, Lord. That is a pretty penny.
That must be a game-worn, like, Stanley Cup jersey or something at that price.
Possibly. And Rick and Scout from 2-4. Yeah, there's a couple folks here I haven't really talked to before. But anyway, yeah, thanks for hopping in. I didn't expect to have this many people. We've also got Nick joining us.
What's up?
How you doing, Nick? Happy Friday.
Yeah. Well, it's a rainy Friday and just got done with a driving range, so should be
right on.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. So, yeah, I got to make sure I put up actual polls here. I'm going to have to split my other screen here in two because I can run the poll that way, and then I can see the chat better here too. All right. Fantastic. The Mighty Ducks, the Bash Brothers. Aha. I like where your head's at. All right. So the first one that we're going to do here is it's going to be the Ducks. And in this case, we have Ryan Getz, Laugh, and Perry. We do have another Ducks tandem to talk about as well, but these two guys played together forever. Now, in terms of our actual tiers, see, we're talking about some of the best duos to have played this game. So there's no D tier, there's no tier underneath that. A C is like a disrespect, although there are going to be plenty of players who do get that, right? But we do have a B, an A, an S, and then we have a GOAT tier. So, yeah, we'll get started in just a moment here. I'm just entering the poll. All right, so A. And actually, for the people who are joining me face to face here, please do vote in the poll, and then I'll ask you guys kind of for your thoughts. So here we have Ryan Getzlaff and Corey Perry. So folks, you can just see the poll here and start casting your votes. And does anybody have any initial opinions on Getzlaff and Perry?
Well, for me, I kind of give it, well, not to kind of spoil my ranking here, but like between an A and a B, because they were together for so long. I mean, didn't they come into the league together too in 2003? They were drafted the same year, weren't they?
They were.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So, I mean, and they were an integral part of that 2007 Cup. I believe it was 2007, right?
Yep.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Good job.
So, yeah. I mean, like I say, Corey Perry's still kicking. Getzlaff just recently retired and is now, I think, taking a front role or like some sort of a front office job with Anaheim. And yeah, I mean, like I say, you really can't say the history of the Anaheim Ducks without mentioning either Perry or Getzlaff.
Well said. Anybody else here have a strong opinion on these folks?
For me, this is a tandem that you had when Perry and Getzlaff as pretty much of a hard-nosed type of dual threat from a team, because when they were on the line together, Perry was in his prime, was one of the better players in the league. He won a Hart Trophy for a reason with Getzlaff on the dot. I personally would put this as like high C, just because there could be a whole lot better tandems on this list, just because they only were able to succeed once in the Cup final, and that was very early in their career, and they were not on the same lines at that same time in that Cup run. They were on the same lines and made it to the conference final one other time in 2015, but they ended up falling short in that conference final to my Blackhawks, of course. But I would have them in a high C, low B range.
Okay. Now, we're not going to actually be able to go completely around the round table here for opinions, but we'll rotate. Like, for example, when there's when the Blues tandem comes up, Kevin, if you're hanging out with us, like, then we'll get your take. So we'll kind of rotate people back and forth, considering we have like 40 of these to get through. All right, so I'm going to close the poll. And yeah, very strong preference for either the A or B tier. So what I'm going to do is, right, of course, why is YouTube not showing me the results of the poll? That's not good. I don't like that. What was that? Oh yeah, AB. That's together. That's 75. I think it was like 12 and a half, and 75. All right, so I think that it's appropriate to at least let's be kind to them at first. We'll put them in A, and then we'll play it by ear. But again, AB is kind of is really the middle ground here. We'll stick them in the A tier for now, though.
I'm honestly
Alright.
feeling kind of B more than anything, but
Oh yeah, I mean, like it could definitely change. But next up, we're gonna have Korea and Solani.
The iconic Anaheim duo.
yep.
So yeah, I gotta get used to putting goat in as one of the options.
So, well, I mean, again, I kind of say around the same as ironically as I say, like Getzlaf and Perry, just because I can't remember where Solani was on the Stanley Cup team, wasn't he?
Yes,
No,
he was.
Solani was on the 07 team. He was not on the 03 team that made it to the Cup final.
Okay.
02 team. Was it 03 or 02?
03. Good one, Nick. Good pickup.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I probably put them around the same level as Getzlaf and Perry because they are more iconic, and not to mention off the floor, on the board. I mean, one of the all-time greatest calls in NHL history.
And they did go into the Hall of Fame together.
Wow.
So yeah, I'd say A or B.
Same.
Okay. Was that everything? Did we get everybody there? Actually, you know what? I think
have
what
it,
we'll
I
do.
have
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have them at an A.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Based on their iconic goals or calls, that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah. The only thing that would make it from being higher is they both didn't win a cup together. Like, I know Solani won the cup. I couldn't remember if Korea was on that 07 team or not.
No, he was on either Nashville or St. Louis at the time.
No,
Probably
he came to the Blues
Nashville.
later. I think he was on Nashville.
Sounds about right. So, yeah, for that, I'd probably say, again, A or B. Because they are iconic and they're both Hall of Famers.
Right on. There's Riley. I think I got him on face-to-face here.
Yeah,
All right.
his internet's been going kind of wonky.
Yeah. You know what? Since actually, yeah, we'll keep the poll for now. I'm just wondering if I should just instead not use polls and just have people type their response in. I think we're okay with this right now though. So A or B was what, 50, S was 30, and then GOAT is 10 and C is 10. All right. We'll put them in the S tier. We'll start with that.
That works.
Yeah. And again, like this can always change. And Slapshot Hockey, thanks for hopping in here. And Rick, I didn't even say hello earlier, but welcome. All right. Next up, we've got I like I said, I tried to pick one for every team. So I chose Shane Doan and Keith Tkachuk. So you guys, if you have any opinions, you can start chatting about that. I'm just gonna run the poll here.
Yeah, so Shane Doan, Keith Tkachuk, both Coyotes legends. Of course, Keith Tkachuk's more of a Blues legend, probably. But both these guys are still pretty iconic in the Coyotes, and they were pretty good for them in like that late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
They never got to the Cup finals and never won the Cup, but I don't even think they got pretty close. I don't even know if they made it to the conference finals ever.
No, the only time I think
Doan
was
did.
2012. Excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah, only Shane Doan made it to the conference final.
Yeah, 'cause I
this
think that was
duo
2013.
It was 2012.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This duo was not on it. Honestly, it didn't last long at all, frankly, and they started out in Winnipeg together, but Doan was a rookie in Winnipeg, and they just moved over to Arizona with Tkachuk coming over as well. I frankly would say this is one of the weaker duos. For Arizona, I would say a better duo for them was probably Shane Doan with Anton Vermette.
Oh, really?
To be quite honest, yeah.
Yeah, and again, I kind of echo Windy City's sentiments there. I mean, Because when you think of Keith Tkachuk, I almost kind of think of him more as a Blue, like what Kevin was saying there. Just because that seems to be where he, was, especially towards the end of his career and stuff like that. And I mean, when you think of Arizona, you primarily think of Shane Doan first, and then Keith Tkachuk. And like I say, they really didn't play that long together, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's even like a low B or high C, just because they both weren't actually a duo together really that much. But they're both still really good in their own rights.
All right, I'll give you guys about 10 seconds if anybody else has yet to cast a vote here, and then we'll move on. But yeah, I mean, with this one, this was one of the ones where I didn't see it on a website. I just wanted to pick somebody for the Coyotes organization. And of course, you can't, echoing you guys, you can't, talk about the Coyotes without, first mentioning Shane Doan. And then I thought about Keith Tkachuk. Jeremy Roenick is another kind of high caliber player. But yeah. All right, let's close this out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This one, look at this. Look at that. 38 for GOAT tier.
Wow.
And then 38 for AB.
That's shocking.
It
is. I know we don't have a lot of folks.
That's really shocking how that came out.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, both of them are good in their own regards, but when I think of Arizona, I think of Shane Doan a lot more than I think of Keith Tkachuk, even though they're both kind of the face of the franchise in their own rights. But I think more Shane Doan than Keith Tkachuk.
And frankly, both of them are not Hall of Fame caliber players, in my opinion. And they are Hall of Very good, but I would not put this as them as a GOAT tier at all.
All right. Well, I took a call just based on the disparity in voting. So I put them in A. At least that's just because so much, there was 38% for the GOAT tier alone. So I figure that's kind of representative. Let's see here. Next we have this is
iconic.
Yeah. Espo and Bobby Orr.
If the Hawks never traded away Phil Esposito.
Oh,
that would have been one.
Esposito too?
Yeah, it would have been an iconic trio in that era of Blackhawk hockey because of Bobby Hall, Stan Mikita, and Phil Esposito on the same line.
Oh, wow.
Would that have been, what's the greatest line in NHL history? That would have to rank,
That'd be up there.
That'd be pretty high up there.
Yeah, it would be up there, but it did not last long because it ended up being one of the worst trades in Blackhawks history. And later on, Bobby Orr became a Blackhawk.
That's true, yeah.
But this is a GOAT tier, in my opinion. It's so iconic to the NHL at that era of the NHL hockey, and both of them were over 100-point players, and it was just iconic what they were able to do together.
Well, yeah, Espo, he kind of, it's almost like he's, because Orr was the face of the NHL at that point. Before that crazy dynasty run by the Canadiens at the end of the 70s. And so it's kind of like Espo for I think probably hockey fans who are, younger, even like myself, we kind of lose track of him because, we think of Orr when we think of the 70s. We think of, Gretzky when we think of the 80s, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I would kind of agree with Nick there because, again, Esposito and Orr, if you think about it, were like two of the original, well, maybe not original, but of the earlier superstars. When you think of the NHL during that time, there's, very few players, if any players that were above Orr and Esposito, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, for that, I'd say it's a GOAT tier, especially because of that iconic goal in the Stanley Cup Finals that Orr was literally doing the Superman.
Yep, worthy of a statue. Just if anybody hasn't cast a vote yet, I'll give you about 10 seconds. This is Orr and Espo. Okay. All right. We'll wrap this up in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. I think this easily has to fit in the GOAT tier. Yeah. All right. So 60 and 2020. All right, that's cool. All right. Thanks, guys, for letting me kind of move things along here, too. All right. So, obviously, the French Connection was a full line. But if I were to choose a duo from this group, it'd be, of course, Gilbert Perreault, who was the first pick the Sabres ever had, and also Rick Martin.
Mhm.
Not gonna lie, I really don't know much about these guys. Like, as far as like the early Sabres and stuff like that's concerned, but so
Sorry.
you're good. But I mean, so for
It's
that,
not
I'd probably say A. I mean, because I've heard of the French Connection, but as far as like actual players and stuff like that are concerned, I couldn't tell you anything about any of them. Unless, like I really kind of dug for it and stuff like that. But
well, what's impressive is that the Sabres made the Stanley Cup in just their like 5th season in the NHL.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think they had to play. I can't remember exactly how the divisions were, but they still had to go through some tough teams. I would think
At that time, they were able to play teams in the West as well during the playoff run.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because they ended up playing the Flyers in the Cup final that.
That's right. Yeah, the that's something I talked about in the last sudden death video. The fog game and the bat.
Yep.
During the Broad Street Bully era of the Flyers.
Yeah.
For me, this is more, since it is more of a trio for it being the French Connection line, it's hard to make it like truly which one was the true duo, what led to it being more of a dual threat, because this was a trio threat where you're up against the French Connection, they're moving the puck well together, and I have it as an A because it is a trio, not a duo, but you could put any of the 3 players and consider it as a duo if you wanted just to put 2 players onto it.
Yeah, I would agree there.
About 15 seconds for anybody who hasn't voted yet.
Yeah, if I lose Wi-Fi, I'm going through. There's a storm going on right by me. I don't know if you've heard the thunder going on. There was apparently a lightning strike across the street from my house.
Oh wow!
That's when I jumped and said, "Oh."
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been having storms around my area these last few days too, so I understand that one.
All right, so just a second. Thompson Tuck, Thompson Skinner. Yeah, I mean, Thompson and Skinner have been a pretty good fit together. And I mean, I love Tuck. Let's see here. So 40, 30, 30. Okay. I did that wrong. Okay, so it was 30. Yeah. All right, well, that's pretty easy to divvy up here. I would say, yeah, considering they're, again, we're talking about a duo versus a trio. So I'll put them in A right now because that's basically right where the votes were. I don't know. I think that seems okay. All right, this is an interesting one. What, guys, I really don't know how much they played together, but we have the Stahl brothers, Eric and Jordan.
They played together for about 5 years, and it was a good duo. But Carolina's most iconic duo, I would say, is Ron Francis and Rod Brindamore, to be quite honest.
I agree there.
And so this is a C, in my opinion.
Got it. I didn't know that. I just didn't think that they had played long enough together, the two of them. But
yeah,
I mean, I'm just taking a guess on this one.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's fine. For me, because weren't they also was Jordan a part of the Stanley Cup team too, or not?
No, Jordan was on the Stanley Cup team with the Penguins in 09. 09. Eric was on the Cup final of the Cup team in 06 with the Hurricanes.
Okay, so I know Eric won the Cup, so Jordan did then. At least
Jordan has won a Cup, just not with the Hurricanes.
Carolina. Yeah. Okay.
I think they both have one cup each.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So for that, yeah, I kind of have to say it is a C. I mean, nothing against the Stahl brothers. I know during the day, they were as good as anything. I mean, heck, all three of them played each other in the conference finals or in the
Yeah.
playoffs. So
Yeah.
Was it the conference finals?
Yep, it was the conference final.
Okay.
Florida versus
We're
Carolina.
guaranteed at least one stall in the cup final this year.
So
Ended up with 2.
So yeah, if anything, I would almost kind of associate them with that more than anything. So yeah, for that, I have to put it as a C, just because I didn't see a lot of them together, at least during the heyday of the Hurricanes, because that was kind of during the low period of the Canes before Brind'Amour took over as coach and then really shot them up and got them to where they are now.
All right. That's all fair, guys. All right. If anybody hasn't voted yet, I will give you 10 seconds. After this, we're going to have our representatives for Columbus. So we'll close this out in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. So, yeah, I think that this is our first C tier, although it'll probably end up toward the front of the C tier. Let's see. Stahls 50. Goat was 20. 10 for S, 20 for there. Okay. All right. So now for Columbus, Columbus hasn't really had a lot of superstar talent when it comes to the actual position players. But Bobrovsky is probably one of the greatest Blue Jackets in recent memory. But of course, Rick Nash would give some, we got to give him some kudos as well. But if we talk about a duo, this is the one that stands out to me most likely, I'd say, even though they didn't play all that long together, and that's Zach Werenski and Seth Jones.
Yeah, because Seth Jones and Zach Werenski, as you said, they didn't really play that much, with Jones being shipped off to Chicago in 2021, I think, and Zach Werenski pretty much being hurt for most of this season. I'd probably say either C or B, because, of course, they're not the greatest Blue Jacket players of all time, because you mentioned Rick Nash and Sergei Bobrovsky, but they're definitely up there as some of the best.
Yeah, Mike says maybe you could consider Laine and Gaudreau. I just think it's been hasn't been long enough just yet. Yeah, but who knows?
Wait a few more years.
From now. If we do this 2 or 3 years from now, sure.
And I kind of agree with Kevin on that one, because when I think of the Blue Jackets, I don't really think of a duo. I think of just key players during their history. Like case in point, Nick Foligno, when he was the captain, kind of taking them from the Reebok into the Adidas days. And then, like you say, Seth Jones is probably another key piece there. Cam Atkinson is another guy. Bobrovsky, obviously. And then you can't go wrong with Rick Nash, who basically kind of got the franchise up and going. But I don't think of a duo, I don't think of Gretzky and, Gretzky and Messier or, players like that. You just think of more individual key pieces. So for that, I have to put it as a C. And that's not to say that, they're a bad organization or anything. It's just they don't really have two key pieces that are together, at least unless Gaudreau and Laine can get something worked out, or maybe even Fantilli with, who knows, one of their next upcoming prospects too could be that guy. Or even Fantilli and Laine, or Fantilli and Gaudreau could even get something together.
All right. I'll give you guys about 10 seconds if you haven't cast a vote just yet.
A duo I would more so think of for Columbus is honestly Foligno and Atkinson. Those two together were actually pretty lethal on a power play or on the same forward line. I would consider them more of a duo for Columbus than Jones and Werenski. I like Jones. He's a now Hawk, but he's not going to really be known for being a Blackhawk, even though he's going to be here for 9 years. But him and Werenski together was a good D pair, but not a true duo. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, some of you might be able to point out a better run that the Flames had, or a better duo that happened more toward the end of the 80s. I didn't know who the best one would be to pair with Iginla, but then again, I wasn't watching the NHL
Mika
much.
Kiprusoff.
I wouldn't put a goaltender with a forward, though, I don't think.
Probably like Robin Regehr or something.
Sometimes could, just because they worked so well as like that made that team a very hard team to beat with those two players alone. That's why I would put them as like a complete duo, because you have a great forward in Iginla and a great goaltender in Mika Kiprusoff. That's why I have them as their best duo. But Tkachuk and Gaudreau, that's an iconic duo from their era. But I would still say it's a C. They weren't really successful for playoff runs, and that's about where I feel. And they made the playoffs a total of 4 times when they were together. So I have them as C.
I have them at an A or B range just because, obviously, the playoff and success is part of it. But for me, too, just like there were like a couple of the young guys that sort of kind of bridged the gap post Iginla and stuff like that and made it like exciting to be Flames fans and kind of, pushed them in a new direction and stuff like that. But I really can't give them any higher than a B just because, like you said, they didn't have a lot of postseason success together. I mean, they made it into, I think, the second or third round a couple of times, or at least the second round. I know against the Battle of Alberta, what was that, in 22 for the playoffs. That's really about as far as they've gone, as far as I remember. But both really great young players, both kind of helped guide Calgary into a forward direction, even though right now there might be some dark days ahead for Calgary, just, based on all that stuff. But at the very least, they gave him something to go to and watch. So for that, I give it a B.
All right. I'll give you guys about 10 seconds. And for those of you who don't know, so tomorrow at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific, we'll be ranking NHL cities that the NHL could expand to, like Houston and Atlanta and Quebec, even though a lot of them have had hockey before. So yeah, we've got, I think, like 25 different cities or something like that. So I hope you can join us then. Yeah. I mean, it's like cool. Every stream I have, somebody asks me about it. So I was like, I'll just let you guys figure it out among yourselves, but I'll host it. All right. Let's close it out. All right. So where are we going to put you? 62% for AB, 12 for C, 25S. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Where's this going to rank? Boy, I would think it's probably going in A. How does it rank versus the French Connection? Is it better? Yeah.
Probably better.
Yeah, it looks a little bit better.
Because it's a duo, and that's a trio.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I hear every time we talk about NHL duos, I think about that commercial with Backstrom and Ovechkin from a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a good one. All right. This is about the same as Getzlaf and Perry. Yeah. All right. Well, they're going in the A tier. I would have probably put them in the B tier myself, but we'll see. All right. Now we get to another duo of eras past in Stan Mikita and Bobby Hull.
Take it away,
Rest
Wendy.
in peace to both of them. All right. These two, for the longest time, you could still argue as the greatest Blackhawks of all time. And they're part of the NHL 100 club. Yes, they only won 1 Stanley Cup. But what these two players were able to succeed individually and also together as teammates count 4 Hart trophies, 6 scoring titles, 3 Stanley Cup final appearances. They were a great duo together. They'd have 2 statues out front of the United Center for a reason, facing their statues actually face directly across where the old Chicago Stadium would have been standing. They built the statues intentionally to have them facing the old Chicago Stadium in comparison to where it's located for the United Center. We could talk about who's coming up here. I believe they're on this list, but Mikita and Hall, this is a GOAT tier for the hockey era because they were inventors of the game by bringing creating the curve stick and creating the slap shot of the game. So I would have this as a GOAT tier.
And just want to jump in here. Thanks, Mike, for the super chat. Does anybody else want to weigh in?
Honestly, for me, when you think about it, they're like two of the forefronts of modern hockey. Like, without them, it's kind of like one of the videos I think you came out with, kind of like explaining the rules of history or something. Can't remember if that was you or if that was a different. Anyway, basically, without them, they wouldn't have revolutionized and pushed hockey forward, because this was what era? Like the 30s, 40s?
No, this was
like 60s.
50s. As a duo, they played from 58 till 72.
58.
So yeah, like I say, they were still kind of towards the, like really revolutionizing the game to as we know it today, and they're like two of the original superstars, if you may say. So for that, I would say it's an S tier. I mean, and like you say, you don't get a statue for no reason. So you always got to put that into consideration too, as much as it hurts me to say it as a Wild fan. Again, there's just like certain people that, when you think of certain eras and think of like certain players that help push the league forward, these are two of the guys you think of for like that time period that really helped push the NHL forward.
Well, there was that, and also it wasn't just for the NHL itself; it's also for Chicago sports because the White Sox and Cubs went decades upon decades without a championship. The Bears, they weren't particularly that great at that time either. At least if I checked Pro Football Reference, and the Bulls weren't really a thing yet. So they were the face of Chicago sports, I think you could say.
Yeah, at that time, Makita and Hall were the superstars of Chicago. You had Ernie Banks for the Cubs at that time. You had Dick Butkus for the Bears. No one really for the White Sox. Granted that I don't care about the White Sox, but that's a whole nother story. But the Blackhawks at that time, they ruled the city of Chicago for sports. And that's actually having the Chicago Bears before in the pre-Super Bowl era when they've won multiple championships for the NFL before the Super Bowl era occurred. But the Blackhawks ruled Chicago at that time.
All right, folks, let's close this out in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's end this one. So now the question is, oh, Lord, this one I think actually did better than Orr and Espo, which I think that's kind of fitting in the sense that, they're basically tied. But since they got 67%, I'll put them ahead of Orr and Espo just because, they're on a line together. So I think that's fair. All right, now we go to Kane and Taves. So I'll put the poll up in just a second. Nick, we got another Nick here in the stream here. Nick Marcellus, thank you for joining us here. All right. So yeah, go on with it. I might have to cut you off a little bit sooner so we can keep pushing through.
Yeah.
But yes, please.
Again, they're part of the NHL 100 club for a reason. They won 3 Stanley Cups together. Each of them getting Conn Smythe nods. Taves, if he stayed healthy, he honestly in the prime Jonathan Taves, Patrick Kane era of winning Stanley Cups, this was they were arguably in the NHL viewed as top 3 players in the NHL with Sidney Crosby. a lot of reports said it, and a lot of people would say Kane and Taves would be two players people wanted to build their hockey team around. They were this was an iconic duo for the 2010s. Unfortunately, and now it's over, and now both of them are no longer with the team. Taves is likely retired. Kane, don't know where he's going to go, but it's an iconic moment. They are going to have statues out front of the United Center. They're going to have their numbers retired. They're going to be first ballot Hall of Famers, 3 Stanley Cups, multiple Conn Smythes, and a Hart Trophy for Kane, a Selke Trophy for Taves. I'd say it's up there as S or GOAT tier just because of what they were able to do to revolutionize the game and bring back hockey to the city of Chicago, because hockey was dead before these two came to the team in 2008.
All right. Anybody else have any opinions that they want to share on Kane and Taves?
Well, I mean, they basically kind of rejuvenized Chicago sports, really, because at the time, I mean, they had like glimpses, because this was post, the Jordan Bull era, like the Jordan Bulls era. The Bears had like a couple of like glimpses there, but they really weren't, top cheese. I know the White Sox had just recently come off of a championship, I guess, but that's only for like if you're a White Sox fan. The Cubs are still kind of going through the whole, illegal catch out of the outfield, and stuff like that, and they're kind of going through their issues. So, and again, seeing them personally as a Wild fan, memories I kind of want to repress. And they did win all those Stanley Cups together and all that stuff. And yeah, like Wendy said, I mean, they are going to have statues together as one of the, again, more iconic duos of the Chicago Blackhawks in their storied history. So for that, GOAT tier to a high S, I would say. Yeah. As much as it pains me to say that as a Wild fan.
All right. Anybody else?
As much as it pains me to say this as a Blues fan, the Blackhawks with Kane and Taves were probably the greatest team of the 2010s.
I mean, how can you? I mean, I know that they're Penguins. They had one cup in 2009, but yeah, I mean, even though the Penguins got more playoff appearances that decade, the Blackhawks, I mean, they
won more cups.
They had, yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at like the Hall of Famers who were on that team too, and you compare the two, and it's like the Hawks certainly do have a case,
And not to mention, too, if you're a hockey jersey collector, I mean, a lot of people, have either Kane or Taves in their jersey collection, kind of like a Crosby type of thing, They're like superstars for not even just the NHL, like even just out and about, There's like certain players that transcend the eras and stuff like that. And Kane and Taves were the 2010s.
All right. Let's close this poll out here in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. So we've got ourselves more goats. All right. So that was what? That was 60, 30, 10. All right. Well, that's going to give them a pretty favorable rating. Actually, that's going to give them, from a percentage standpoint, they actually grade out as the highest so far, believe it or not, like by the slimmest of margins.
Yeah.
All right.
And not to mention, too, a lot, those are the two between them are like Crosby and Malkin are a lot of our generation's superstars.
All right. Now our next duo, we've got Sakic and Forsberg.
Iconic.
Yeah. I mean, there's really not much else to say. They kind of helped usher in a new team from when they moved from Quebec City and stuff like that. At least Sakic was. I don't know. Was Forsberg also part of the Nordiques?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Think for like their last few seasons.
So yeah, I mean, they kind of helped bring over, a new franchise, and they won a Stanley Cup not that long after they moved and stuff like that. So they basically, gave Colorado, fans something to cheer for at that time. So for that, I'd probably have to say an A or a B. Probably with like emphasis more on A, just because again, it's not easy relocating a franchise from one city to another and then being relevant in like, just a few years and stuff like that. And bringing a Stanley Cup literally within, what was it, like 5 or 8 years?
I think it was the first couple seasons.
Yeah, they won 2 Stanley Cups in a 6-year span, 7-season span, I think. Yeah,
And winning their first one in their first year in Colorado.
it is sweep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
I have this as an S tier. Or a high S tier, low GOAT tier. They're iconic. It was you had Forsberg and Sakic going with each other on the same line for a while. They.
Oh, I think you froze there. Well, for me, I would say this is probably an S tier. I think it would probably fit in the S with me.
Yeah, sorry, my power went out.
Oh, you're good. All right. Anybody else want to vote? Just do that in the next 10 seconds. Got a lot.
Yeah, these guys are probably, I say high S. They're not quite GOAT, but they're still good enough to be up there.
Mm-hmm.
5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. Well, looks like they're going in the GOAT tier as well. Now, granted, if we do get like a straight up GOAT, a couple choice or a couple of duos that are only GOAT votes, then that would kind of knock these guys down a peg. But for now, we'll have to do this. All right. So we got Sakic and Forsberg, and that is what, 60. Why aren't the poll results showing up? There we go. 60, 20, 10, 10. I think we actually have, that's identical to another one we saw earlier. Not quite. Okay, so this is actually at the end of the GOAT tier, but I still think it's very appropriate to put them there. Mm-hmm. All right, now, oh, shoot. This one didn't make it on here. Oh, man, because I didn't have the Dallas Stars. I don't think I can fix this, but I decided to put Rope Hintz and Jason Robertson. But then again, Joe Pavelski is a big piece of this as well. Somebody who's a Stars fan like Afton might say, I don't know, Mike Modano and somebody else who played with them. I don't know about Joe Nieuwendyk. But anyway, I'm going to have to skip the Stars because apparently when I tried to upload this to TierMaker, it didn't go through. So with that being said, oh, yes, we have ourselves. Look at these two handsome sons of guns here. That is Gordie Howe, Mr. Hockey, and terrible Ted Lindsay.
Again, classic, iconic, revolutionary. I mean, yeah, like, again, you just really can't say anything about those early Red Wings teams. They basically revolutionized, American hockey. I know the Bruins, I think, were the first American team in the NHL, but I know was it Boston or was it the Red Wings that were the first? I think it was Boston, but regardless, though, I mean, Ted Lindsay has a trophy named after him and stuff like that. So for me, that's, I would say, like high S tier to low GOAT tier, but, with more emphasis on the high S tier since we have a lot of GOAT tiers. But I mean, Ted Lindsay literally has a trophy named after him and helped revolutionize the game and stuff like that. And Gordie Howe and, like guys like that too were even very very, very much so. And Howe played until he was like, what, 50? Like off 52. And on?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, he had a lot of longevity, and I know he's a huge part of Detroit sports as well. So for that, high S to low GOAT tier.
Yeah, I'm in the same range for them. They're iconic duo for what they were able to accomplish back in that era of the NHL for being the original 6 era. The reason it got split up was mainly because Ted was wanting to create the NHLPA at the time, and the league was so angry they forced Detroit to trade him, and they traded him to Chicago because at that time no one wanted to be a Chicago Blackhawk, which was weird because that was when Mikita and Hall were coming into the NHL. But I have it as an S or a GOAT, a high S, low GOAT tier.
All right. And we only have 6 votes so far. So if anybody hasn't cast a vote, I would certainly recommend it. Although I understand if people's opinions aren't as informed here, considering this was many decades ago. Now, one thing that I'll point out is that this is a fairly iconic duo, certainly, and but there was also a production line too for the Red Wings.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the two of them. Yeah, that's just what I was going to say. All right, I'm going to close this out then in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If we're playing the percentages, this is actually the GOAT of all of them so far. There they go. How about that? All right. So this is Howe and Lindsay at 71 to 29 or 28. It shows. Okay. We're going to move on. We've got another duo here, and that is Pavel Datsyuk and Henrik Zetterberg.
Again, what can you say? They won a lot of cups together, during that sort of like 90s and early 2000s run and stuff like that. And even to this day, when you think of, like all-time great, like at the very least, like great playoff runs and stuff like that. I mean, Datsyuk and Zetterberg and, just guys like that in general were huge in making a dynasty in Detroit and just, bringing back the Red Wings from, well, just years of mediocrity, for lack of a better term, and stuff like that, and gave them a great run and stuff like that. It just kind of sucks that Detroit decided to ride them into the ground instead of rebuilding sooner and stuff like that. But you can't take away what they did. So for that, I'd say, again, S tier. I mean, especially for all the rivalry sakes and stuff like that. I mean, between Chicago and, the Avalanche and stuff like that, Pittsburgh, I mean, the Red Wings had like some of the greatest all-time rivalries, and a lot of it was during this Datsyukian era and stuff like that. So for that, I have to give it an S, and, they also have had a lot of success in the playoffs, including a few Stanley Cups.
Yeah, the Datsyuk and Zetterberg era really started after the 2002 Stanley Cup because Zetterberg was really a true rookie at that time, and Datsyuk was a rookie in that cup run. Both of them together only won the cup once, and that was 2008, if I stand corrected. But them both being late round draft picks. And what Datsyuk was able to accomplish by himself if he was not on the line with Zetterberg, because that did happen quite a bit where they were not on the same line. I have them as an A tier because it did fall apart quick once Datsyuk decided, I'm done with the NHL and want to go over to the KHL. You could start seeing it around 2014 that he wanted out of the NHL.
All right, I'll give you guys about 15 seconds to cast your votes here. Yeah, to me, I think this is a great duo just in terms of actually just watching them perform. They didn't have the same. They didn't have necessarily the same like longevity together as Howe and Lindsay, and the Red Wings were just an absolute force, and they were certainly contributors. But that team just was, especially earlier in that decade, was so dang stacked. I mean, even Lidstrom was on the team. Yzerman was on that team in 2002. So it's like I can't just completely give them all the credit for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll close this out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, this one, again, got more GOAT votes, but what I'm going to do now is start to kind of make an adjustment. So, like Sakic, for example, and Forsberg got 60%, and that's kind of been the baseline so far. So, because this one got 50%, I'm moving it to the front of the S tier. Because, we can't just have everything as the GOAT tier. It's got to be reserved for said GOATs. All right, so that's what, 50, 25, 25? All right, cool. All right. Now we got a couple Oilers duos. I mean, that's crazy. We go straight from the Red Wings to Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier. Now, you could say Wayne Gretzky and Yari Curry, sure, but this is more fun, I think, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Like, do we
Yeah.
have to go here? I mean, when you think of like duos, this is one of the duos you think of. Messier and Gretzky. I mean, they were 80s hockey. They were the show. They were, just record-setting trailblazers. And, even after Gretzky left the Oilers, Messier was still one of the top players. And heck, he even helped with the Rangers, hoist their first cup in 48 or 50 years. So, I mean, they were both even great after the duo, but just as a duo, I mean, they were arguably one of the best duos in all of hockey, even to this day, of all time, just from what they did from an offensive standpoint, from putting butts in the seats, from, even like jerseys and stuff like that, because this was during the time, kind of when that became a thing too, everyone was, what's Gretzky going to do? This, that, and the other thing. It kind of really piqued a lot of interest, I would say, in hockey again. But again, just one of those all-time great duos. When you think of an all-time duo, you think of Messier and Gretzky. So for that, I have to put it in the GOAT tier.
And you were able to see this duo end their career off in '99 together in New York. They did reunite in New York to play with each other. But yeah, it's an iconic duo. They were able to accomplish so much together with the Oilers. I personally would say it's Curry and Gretzky. Messier at the time was still Messier wasn't utilized as heavily in those cup runs until the year Gretzky left, and then they named Messier captain, and he went on to captain the Oilers to the cup in 1992. If I might be getting the year mixed up. 1990. So it was they were great together. I still put it as an S tier, but it's because how much they were able to accomplish, even though you should probably put Gretzky in GOAT tier, even with Messier, but I still have it as S tier.
I think it's fair. I can respect that. All right.
Yeah.
15 more seconds if you haven't voted yet. I mean, I think just about everybody has, but I'll still give you a little bit more time. And yeah, this is not the only Oilers duo on this list, of course. So I'm going to close this out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Actually, Lindsay and because we had a different number of votes here. So just by the slightest of margins, this is going to rank right next to, or to the right of Lindsay and Howe. Yeah. All right. And now, of course, we've got a certain dynamic duo that does play together a fair bit. Not all the time, but of course, McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yes, sir. These two are probably one of the greatest duos of all time, period. In the future and in the past. In the future, they'll be known as probably like that Gretzky and Messier, especially since it's the same team. It's just about 30 years later. But still, these guys are incredible. They play together well. They're both franchise players, so that the Oilers have 2 franchise players is insane.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are just probably the GOATs of hockey right now. So for that, they should go in GOAT tier.
Just watch these two on the power play. There's nothing more exciting in the NHL than these two players.
I mean, they had a historic power play, like all-time great power play. But Kevin, I agree with you. But here's the thing, though, that separates them between Messier and Gretzky, in my opinion, is that cup, is the championship in Edmonton. So for that, I'd have to put them in S tier, like high S tier because of that. But if they win a cup, then you could easily put them up as one of the all-time great duos in any generation of all time, just because, again, both of them from an offensive standpoint, I mean, both of them could literally carry a franchise on their own if they were on like good teams and stuff like that. But it's just the fact that you have two generational talents on one team anymore is so crazy to see in this day and age where, you know, players and superstars are switching like every 3 or 4 years, and just their offensive firepower. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, and not to mention too, with McDavid being one of the generational talents coming out of juniors and stuff like that. I mean, he was like really good and was able to help kind of guide the Oilers. But once Draisaitl got in there and really sort of, they both stepped up their games and stuff like that. I mean, yeah. So for me, I have to put them as high S tier just because, again, they don't quite have the accolades as far as like team success as like a Gretzky and a Messier. But yeah, and like if they can win 1 or 2 cups before this is all said and over with, then I could arguably put them above Gretzky and Messier, or even Gretzky and Curry.
Yeah, their success rate for playoff runs is not good together because sometimes it seems like Draisaitl dries up going into the playoffs. This year he did not. McDavid was kind of dry until he started realizing, oh crap, we're about to lose. He started to get his game going. But they have I found in playoffs, either one of them could get a dry spell and the team is going to fall apart immediately. The team runs only on these 2 players. They don't have that supporting cast around them that could potentially go on to win that true Stanley Cup that is elusive to them right now. They are chasing a cup. They have not built the team to go for it, in my opinion, because they aren't finding the right goaltending, aren't finding the right defense. This is a great duo. I have it as an A range right now, but if they can win a cup, it will move up in the tier.
All right. Go ahead and cast your vote if you haven't yet. We have 9 votes so far, so I'll close that out in 10 seconds. I kind of already want to put them in S, just because like they are today's NHL. They are the duo, and that's like nobody's anywhere close. I don't think.
Oh yeah.
I mean, except for maybe like McKinnon and Rantanen. Like that. Did I even put them on here? No, I should have. But that's more of I don't know. You could say that's more of a line. Anyway, let's close this out in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Or hell, you could even say McKinnon, Makar. Hell, I'd have Devon Taves and Cale Makar bordering between B and A. All right, so okay, this is going to put them, I believe, right here. So we had Korea. Yeah, I think that should be fine. Let's see here. 97-29. I just want to make sure that we're recording the results correctly here. So 22, 55, 22. Okay. Actually, you know what I never did? If anybody still wants to join face-to-face, I'm going to just put the link again. But I'll put that in the pinned comments. So just 1 sec. That. No, I don't want your silly emojis, YouTube. It's getting in the way of me trying to comment on my own stuff here. And then next we got Barkov and Huberdeau. Nope, this will not work for me. Okay. All right, never mind. All right, next up we are going to Barkov and Huberdeau. Hooby dooby doo.
I love this duo together, but I frankly have it as a C just because they weren't really successful together until really truly last year. The last year together, they were at their most successful season together. So I have it as a C.
I agree with you, Wendy. It's just like they could never really, to be fair though, really up until I'd say probably 4 or 5 years ago, Florida was really not good, honestly. You know, it just, they didn't really have anything a lot going for them outside of Luongo. and then Huberdeau and Barkov, and they started drafting and getting those guys together. But you could argue that even Barkov and Tkachuk are a better duo as far as like success, but it's not like Florida's had a lot of success either. Which is, not saying that they're not great players. It's just, to be fair, Florida really hasn't had the greatest opportunity, so it's not really a knock on them. It's just more a knock on the organization around them and stuff like that, not really getting the greatest players until, I'd argue, 3 or 4 years ago. So for that, I have to put them at a C.
Yeah, and this is a point in Florida Panthers history because it's like maybe 2017 to probably like 2019. This is the point where the Panthers are pretty much a nobody, but these players are trying to make them known and trying to build their team up, which they did, but Huberdeau ended up being traded for Tkachuk. And as Jake said, that's kind of what I associate Florida with now is, or the Panthers, I associate them with Barkov and Tkachuk.
Okay, 10 seconds to cast a vote if you've yet to do so. Yeah, I think that even though these guys have been great cornerstones to the franchise just in that history, right? These are probably their 2 best forwards, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think in terms of impact, though, beyond the team itself or beyond that franchise and its fan base and that sort of thing, there isn't a whole lot to write home about specifically with Huberdeau and Barkov. So yeah, I still might consider them being more like B tier, considering again, like other than them, I mean, who else is it, from either that era or going back a couple decades. But yeah, I think that, in comparison to some of these other legends here, yeah, there's a bit of a gap. All right.
I mean, I guess if you really wanted to say like Bure and Van Beesbrook are probably the 2 really famous players outside of Luongo and then these 3. So
we had 1 vote for the GOAT tier. All right. Flying Fluffy Hockey is lurking somewhere here.
Yeah, yes, to be.
exactly.
That's who I was exactly thinking of with that 1 vote.
Or Eyes of Night, if Eyes of Night is here.
However, though, I will say, though, they have actually started developing Florida into more of a prominent franchise, which is good, especially for the Battle of Florida and stuff like that. So
I still question them trading Duclair because Duclair works so well in that system.
Yeah.
And now I don't know how that team's going to do next year.
Actually, they don't grade out as well as the Stalls. Yeah, I mean, God, he was only $3 million too. It's like you could have.
Yeah, they could have worked it out and kept him.
To be fair, though, who would have saw this Stanley Cup run happening too? I mean, considering they barely made the playoffs, but so who knows? Florida's an interesting team. I will say that.
All right, so Jake, I'll let you take this one because the Wild haven't had like a bunch of superstar talent until Kaprizov arrived. So unless you wanted to put in here like Spurgeon and Brodin together as a defensive pairing, so I went with what we've seen the last 3 seasons, and that's Kaprizov and Zuccarello.
It depends on which Zuccarello shows up, because the problem is this last season, the Zuccarello that I'm used to seeing, or like the Zuccarello that we're used to seeing, kind of disappeared off of the face of the earth. Like, I mean, there was like a 15 to 20 game stretch where he was non-existent. And Kaprizov's Kaprizov. I mean, he, Kaprizov will get his. But the thing is, though, when that duo is clicking, they are deadly and lethal. But the problem is, it's almost like recently they've become too cute and too, just almost trying to be like the Harlem Globetrotters on ice versus an actual like pairing. But with all the, as a duo and stuff like that, when they're on, they're great. But the problem is, it's like when they're trying to be too fancy, when they're trying to be too cute, they just can't get the puck in the net. And then like the power play being as off and on and as hot and as cold as it has been in like the last, I'd say 3 or 4 seasons, it's hard for me to put them any higher than I'd honestly say like a low A or a high B. If I had to like put it right now as of July 14th, 2023, I'd put them as a B. And that's just because Zuccarello really didn't show up a lot last year for us when we needed him to. And again, it almost looked like he was kind of tentative. I don't know if he was battling like something, and he is an older guy and stuff like that. So for me, I have to put it as a B. But when I know when they're on, they can be like an S tier level. It's just that's just not the style of hockey we play in Minnesota. And yeah, Zuccarello has frustrated me beyond belief at times last year. So for that, I have to put it as a B.
So do we have any comments for fans of their in division rivals? Excuse me.
For me, it's too early to tell if their tandem on Kaprizov and Zuccarello. They had that one really good season together, in my opinion. Personally, I would say the best tandem, the best duo they had was Marian Gaborik with Mikko Koivu.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
And I would still say they're their best one. So I have this duo of Kaprizov and Zuccarello at a C, just because Zuccarello's at the back end of his career. Kaprizov still has a lot of time left in the league for himself. So I have it as a C right now because this duo won't last much longer.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, this could very easily be the last year of Zuccarello and Kaprizov together and stuff like that, just because Zuccarello's contract comes up at the end of the year. And all that stuff. So,
yeah.
And plus, Danila Yurov is coming over, I'd say, within the next couple seasons as well. So that could potentially be Kaprizov's running mate, fellow Russians and stuff like that. Or even Boldy, I could see potentially moving up at some point. Or it's going to be interesting to see what Dino and Billy G do going in the next upcoming seasons here.
Yeah.
We have a lot of good prospects down there and stuff like that. So
that's true. They're going to have options. But yeah, you're hoping that Zook has, a bit of a swan song for his the end of his career, potentially in Minnesota. Yeah. All right, so 50%. So we got what? We got we got a vote for Go tier. Interesting. We got 2 for S tier. We got 5 for AB, and we have 20 for C. So all right, let me just take a look here because I like to compare versus other sorts of ratings. Oh, did we now? Oh, that's interesting.
Hey, Jake. So Duke's on his final year of his contract, right?
Yep.
So if he leaves, what would you think of him if he came to Chicago and became part of like that next part for the leadership and the mentorship for the young guys in Chicago next year if they tried and signed him?
I mean, I really could care less at that point because, again, honestly, in my opinion, a lot of his best years are kind of behind him.
Oh, yeah. I agree there.
But he definitely does have enough leadership and ability to potentially help out a group of young guys, kind of just guide them. I just wouldn't expect him to be like a 40-goal scorer anymore.
Oh, I never expect that with Zook.
Okay, I'm trying to figure this out. All right. Getzlaf, Perry, they were more AB. Interesting. Yeah. These guys are pretty much all like on the same sort of plane here. I might have to, because some of the proportions are a bit skewed. Just trying to doing some number crunching here. Let's see here. Kachuk Gaudreau. That graded out about the same. Yeah, they're all like basically on this A level. And yet, Korea Solani was almost identical to this one for the Wild here. So I don't really know exactly what we're going to do.
Well, Nick, have you thought about potentially like breaking up A and B and just having like GOAT S, A, B, C as part of the poll instead? Because that could help too, because
Yeah.
You know, with like everyone being in A and nothing being in B, maybe we could try that out and see, because
Well,
I'm all for moving down the Zuccarello and Kaprizov to B as well.
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
that's a good idea.
that's the thing, because Korea Solane, that's basically identical. So and McDavid and Draisaitl, did that grade out better than Temu and Paul? Let's see here. Did that grade, like, how much better did that grade out? A little bit, but not by a whole lot. So here's what we're gonna do. This is what we need to do. We need to move all these guys down to B, because they're pretty similar. And actually, there was a fair gap between Datsuk Zetterberg and McDavid Draisaitl. At least, yeah, there was a fair gap. So just based on the dynamics of things, I think this kind of corrects it a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hate to make that drastic of a change, but that's kind of the way things are panning out so far. Maybe if we had more options here in the poll, but I didn't want to make it only 4 tiers for 4 votes. That's not as fun. All right. Thanks for your patience, folks. Okay, now we get to 2 Montreal duos, and we're going to start with the Richards, right? So we have Maurice and Henri Richard.
It's the brothers together is a good one to have. Henri ended up winning more Stanley Cups, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's won the most in NHL history.
At this time when this duo was created, Maurice was honestly more on the back end of his career. I will say, let that be a note. I would have this as a low A, high B, frankly, because of the fact we didn't get the Richards together for a long period of time in their careers, just because Maurice was on the back end of his career. Henri came into the league much later on in Maurice's career, so I have this as like that A-B range, kind of to more on the leaning more towards A.
Yeah, I agree with Nick on that one. I mean, I don't really know a lot about them other than I know the Rocket Richard Trophy and stuff like that, and they are like, you know, yeah, like I say, when you have the most Stanley Cups, you know, that's a pretty big thing, even if it is, you know, only the original 6 era and stuff like that. But yeah, I agree with Nick there. I'd say A or B.
Okay. I'll give you guys about 15 seconds to vote if you've yet to do so. How am I doing on battery? Okay. Yeah, I might need to move through this a little bit quicker because I have my power cord powering the Cortana laptop, or maybe I'll just shut that down later on. I mean, because people can't really see that much of Cortana anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's close this out then. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, looks like it's landing in S tier, but it doesn't look like it's quite as high as Datsuk and Zetterberg. So Richards, that's what, 28, 42, 28. That's pretty easy. 42, 28. All right, let's see here. We do have another dynamic duo for the Canadiens. At least this is what I found online. I was kind of surprised there wasn't one with like Guy Lafleur or Jean Beliveau, but we have Denny Savard and Larry Robinson, and they were part of course, the Canadiens that were winning those Stanley Cups back in the later 70s.
Yeah, I don't really think about these guys as much as a duo as the Richard brothers were, but they were definitely still a crucial part of those Canadiens in those late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
They're definitely pretty good, but still, I'd probably maybe put them in B or even C.
And I would agree too. I mean,
Oh, Serge
'cause-
Savard. I think I got that wrong, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think that was Serge Savard, not Denny.
Excusez-moi.
yeah, I mean, like I say, because you obviously, when you think of, at least in my opinion, when you think of the Canadians, especially that time, you think of Richard, you think of Waugh, you think of even like today, like Price and stuff like that. You kind of forget about the Savards and those guys, at least in my opinion, just because there were, to be fair, there were a lot of like really, really key pieces of the Canadians just overall, dynasty. I mean, heck, they won how many cups? Was it 23?
23 or 24.
24, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they're literally the Yankees of the NHL, even if most of them were won, pre-expansion era, or even during the expansion, they still had a lot of cups that they won too. So, but for me, I would put the Richards higher. So, yeah, I'd kind of agree with Kevin, like a B or a C, just because you really don't think of them much. They're more of like the role players and stuff like that, or at least as far as like duos and stuff are concerned, but they're still really key pieces to that dynasty run.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll give you guys about 15 seconds to vote if you've yet to do so. And this is not the only defensive duo that we're going to rank here, and that's actually our next duo.
I also love the fact that like literally the only mask or helmet is the goaltender here.
Yeah. Phyllis Bizzito, the photo. Don't know who's taking the shot there for the Rangers, but
Stephane Richer? Is that Richer? I think so.
Yeah, it looks like him.
All right. Wow. We got a good crowd here. This is great to see a lot of folks, new faces here. All right. Wow, what a great audience. All right, let's close this out in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. This one to me looks like it's going to be probably B tier, I would think. I think got 18 for A yet, or for GOAT, I should say, and 54. Okay, so I gotta figure out where this goes relative.
Ranking an A.
Let's see. Where does this rank according to? Let's see. We had the Korea Solani. That was. Yeah, this doesn't rank as well as those. How does it rank versus Kachuk? About the same. About the same as Kachuk and Doan. I'm going an audible here. I'm going to put them at the front of the B tier because I mean that's maybe the best defensive duo of that era. It's right up there. Speaking of the best defensive duos of their era, do we have Pronger and McInnes on here? Oh, I don't think I included them, Kevin. Shoot. I have two Blues duos though. So
it's fine.
All right, but we've got, of course, Scott Stevens and Scott Niedermayer.
All
right.
I just have 4 words. Here comes the boom.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, they literally were bowling balls on the ice. I mean, heck, even watching your sudden death sports video on Scott Stevens, and just because again, Scott Stevens was the one that laid the hit on Korea, the off the floor in the net or off the board, like off the floor on the boards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
Yeah.
Scott Stevens won. Did he win did he win 3 cups with?
Yeah, he was on all 3 cup teams.
Yeah, he's on all 3.
And Niedermayer, how many was he on?
I believe only 2.
2?
I think 2000 and 2003.
Okay.
He might have been on 95. I'm not certain.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, when you think of like 2 guys that weren't afraid to lay the boom, I mean,
This was a scary defense core that you had to go through if you had to play them.
even though it was the dead puck era, which a lot of fans kind of want to forget ever existed. But to be fair, I mean, when you literally have a human missile coming at you at Mach 2 speed, But, and they did win 3 cups or 2 or 3 cups. But for that, I mean, I know might not be like the sexiest duo or anything like that, but they were damn efficient and they got the thing done when it counted. So for that, I'd probably say an A, because they did win at least 2 to 3 cups, or like 2 cups together. And,
Sure.
they were part of a great defense, as much as we hate the trap and stuff like that. I mean, they were still like, one of the better teams at preventing you from bringing it across the blue line or even, center ice and stuff like that. So, and they did win all the cups. So for that, I say an A.
I have this as an S just because this is a scary freaking defense duo that you had to go through. They're wrecking balls out onto the ice, and if you get hit, you're going to feel it for days. So I have it as an S tier just for the pure factor. If you're a forward having to go up against Stevens and Niedermeyer, look out, and you are going to be probably scared for yourself if you aren't the greatest at protecting yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're probably the reason why they say heads up when you're on the ice and stuff like that. Keep your head up.
All right. Hey, Danelle, thanks for joining us, man. Okay, we've got 11 votes here. I'll give you 15 seconds if you've yet to cast your vote. Yeah. And I mean, just this team, of course, had Martin Brodeur, but even so, these two defensemen had a huge impact on them, just being defensively like the toughest club to play against for that era, easily.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You have a great defensive group, and when you have a great goaltender, that's basically a recipe for success. All you have to do is just put like 2 or 3 goals in the back of the net, and you were solid.
Yeah, back then it was hard to get 3 goals in the net those days.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we got 16 for GOAT, 41 S, and 41 AB. Okay, so at the worst, these guys would probably go toward the front of the A tier. Do they grade? They actually don't grade as well as McDavid and Draisaitl, but they do grade enough to be here in the A tier. I probably would have. I don't know. I think I probably would have put them in S.
So yeah, Niedermeyer did win 4 total cups, 3 with the Devils, 1 with the Ducks, by the way.
Okay.
All right. Now with the Predators, I could have done maybe like Yossi and Ekholm, but I figured this would be kind of unique. We don't have too many opportunities here to have like a stellar goaltending tandem, so I decided to choose Rene and Saros, even though Saros, was a backup and we didn't know exactly how amazing he would be, but I think it's still pretty apt to have him as a representative if we're talking about Preds goaltenders. So yeah, I'll put them up here.
And as a Wild fan, these two still haunt me because of how many times we can just never seem to beat them. Like when they're on their game, especially Rene. Like Pekka Rene was like arguably one of the like just biggest thorn in my side. Between him and I'd say Yossi were like 2 of the just biggest wild killers that were out there, in my opinion. And just, especially, and Saros too. I mean, Saros isn't the biggest guy in the world. What is he? Not even 6 foot, I don't think.
Yeah, I think he's 5'11", yeah.
And he's still out there as one of the top goaltenders in the league year in and year out. I mean, let's put it this way. Rene actually has a statue out front of him. Or he either has or will have a statue out front in Nashville.
He has a statue, and it does not look like him. I will say that it looks like a 70-year-old person inside the ugly Nashville Predator jersey. That's what that statue looks like. I hate these 2 guys for personal reasons. Rene always came off like a cocky son of a gun, and to me, I've always hated him as a player and as a goalie in the NHL.
I think a lot of goalies are hot-headed, man. Look at Binnington.
So I have personal bias and hatred to them, so I have them at a C.
Well, to be fair, I could say the same thing about Patrick Kane as a Wild fan, so.
especially me too as a Blues fan.
All right. So personally, yeah, I think that I don't know if this is the best goaltending tandem of all time or of this era, but I mean, it's right up there. Although there's still some really good tandems today, like Sorokin and Varlamov, where you actually have seen, like Varlamov being the older of the two, you've seen his body of work already, even if he doesn't play as much. So, anyway, I'm certainly a fan of these two, and yeah, Rene is easily the face of that franchise through their first 25 years or so. All right, I'll give you about 10 seconds to cast a vote if you've yet to do so. So Rene and Saros. And I'll close it out right about now. Okay. So here we have 40 for C and 20, 20, 20. Okay. Okay. All right. So do they belong in C tier? Yeah, they do, actually. They'll be at the front of the C tier, though. All right. Now we got the Islanders. So we're going to dial it back to the 1980s, and we've got Brian Trottier and Mike Bossy. The late, great Mike Bossy, rest in peace.
Both these guys, key pieces of the Islanders in their early 80s Cup run and how they won it 1980, 81, 82, 83. And both of these players were great playmakers. Of course, Mike Bossy, great goal scorer. Brian Trottier, pretty good on his own. And this duo definitely led this team, and they were both franchise players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, pretty much you hit the nail right on the head there, Kevin. It's just like they were solid. They literally helped the Islanders win those 4 cups and stuff like that. And that's about really all you could say, honestly. I mean, I really don't know much else about them, as far as like later on in the career where they were at and all that stuff. But I mean, 4 Stanley Cups is 4 Stanley Cups right in a row. I mean, and there are 2 key pieces of all 4 of those cups. So you could argue S to GOAT tier range.
I have it as S range. You have arguably one of the greatest goal scorers of all time in Mike Bossy. And you also have Trottier as one of the best setup mans in NHL history. It was a great duo. They won 4 in a row, went to 5 straight cup finals. I will have it as S range, but it's so close to GOAT tier, but it's a high S.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm back. All right. How many votes do we have here? 10? Okay. We'll give you about 10 seconds if you've yet to cast a vote. Yeah, I mean, I had the opinion up until about, 2 years ago or so that Bossy was the greatest goal scorer to ever play. It's just unfortunate that he had to retire from those back injuries by, I think he was only 30.
Yeah.
All right, we'll close this out. All right. So we have 40 for GOAT. So
looks like S tier is probably going to be it.
Yep, it's going to go, let's see here. It's going to be right between the two, I think. Where were the Richards? Yeah, it's going to be ahead of the Richards. Okay, let's put them right there. Okay. Now, the Rangers actually didn't have a dynamic duo. So apologies if I didn't pick the right one. So I just, first one off the top of my head, right? Breadman and Zibby here.
I mean, they're a solid duo. They do, good work and stuff like that on the offensive side of things. And when they're on, I mean, their chemistry, like they click together so well and nicely, but more often than not, especially in like big situations, it's kind of like the issue with like McDavid and Draisaitl, like you were saying. Like it always seems like one or both of them kind of either one of them basically picks up the slack and just pulls his weight, and the other one just kind of, for whatever reason, either is non-existent or just kind of in the weeds. I mean, case in point, the playoffs against New Jersey this past year. It seemed like Panarin really wasn't there a lot. I mean, he was on the ice, but he was like barely existent at all. But when they're clicking, I mean, they could be just as deadly as any combo. But for me, I don't know. I'm kind of going low A, high B.
I have this as a C. Main reason why this is not their iconic duo that I would think of for the Rangers. My pick would be Messier and Brian Leach, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
You had a 100-point defenseman in Leach. You had a captain like Messier. I have this as a C. These two guys don't show up when it comes to games that matter. They fall apart in the playoffs, and so I have it as a C. Panarin, I will also mention, Panarin, never a playoff performer. He never showed up for the Blackhawks. He never showed up for the Blue Jackets, except for the one series they swept the Lightning in, and he hasn't really shown up really for the Rangers either.
All right, I'll give you about 15 seconds for those who have yet to vote and would like to do so. Yeah, it's a good one though. I could have gone with Messier and Leach. All right, I'll close this out in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. So this is Zibby and Panarin. Was it 10? Okay, 10, 40, 50. Okay, 10, 40, 50. Pretty similar there. Okay, Arena Shars is in front of the C. Let me just make sure I'm doing this right. Werenski and Jones were 22, 11, 66. Okay, so they'll probably be right about here. Right about here.
Did we forget about the LA Kings at all?
Oh, we've got the Kings. I don't know how the hell they ended up so much further down. It might have been like a typo. I was trying to do this. Yeah.
Okay. I was just thinking we were doing this in alphabetical order. We forgot about the Kings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm a Sharks fan, so
that's okay.
Let's do the Kings next.
Understandable.
All right, let's do. So with this one again, it wasn't listed as one of the best duos when I was looking at articles. But I chose. Hey, I mean, they're organizationally working together too. I've got Rob Blake and Luc Robitaille.
Okay. For these two guys, I would put as a C. Frankly, the duo I would think of is Dustin Brown and Anze Kopitar for what they were able to accomplish, winning 2 Stanley Cups, and they were both technically captain of their team.
Yeah.
So I would technically go with Kopitar and Brown, but this is probably an A for Robitaille and Blake, frankly, if you think of how well they played together. Didn't have the success in LA. It took them having to go to different teams to win a Stanley Cup. But I would say an A.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm kind of neutral on that too, just because I really don't remember. Like, I know Robitaille was like another kind of key piece. Now, did he play with Gretzky too? Was that during that era as well, or?
I think
he
for a
played
bit
with
of it.
Gretzky for a short time. I think he played with Gretzky for a couple seasons, and that's about it.
So, but yeah, I mean, honestly, I really don't have a lot of opinions just because I really don't know a lot about like the mid to late 90s Kings and stuff like that.
Mhm.
The Kings really didn't start to kind of get things in motion really until like Dustin Brown, Kopitar, and Doughty were drafted.
Yeah.
Before that, really, you know, the Sutter era where they won their 2 cups and stuff like that, and then all that stuff. So, and especially, you know, because that was, you know, even after this era, the Marcel Dion era, the Crown Head era or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of got LA, I guess, on the map and stuff like that as a hockey market. But yeah, I mean, I really don't have a lot else to say other than like a B or a C range just because I don't know enough about them. So that's why I kind of put them in the middle.
And if we're talking about anything iconic, I will never have Dustin Brown as a part of that.
Understandable, yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah. Anyway.
Dustin Brown's most iconic thing is how ugly his statue is in front of Staples Center. That thing, whoever made that statue really botched it.
And there's also the meme of him squirting the water bottle, except it's going in the other direction.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That should have been the statue, to be quite honest. Had made it a fountain where it's just spraying water out of it. That would have been the perfect statue for Dustin Brown.
Oh, that would have been.
Yeah, Toria asks, is Rob Blake related to Toe Blake, the iconic coach and player?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
I can look it up.
All right. Well, anyway, we'll close this out in 10 seconds for anybody who's yet to cast a vote. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a strong opinion on this one, but I'd probably consider putting it around B myself.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll close this out in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. All right, now I gotta do a different piece of paper here. Let's see what we got.
I don't believe they are related. Nothing's really pulling up for it, so more than likely they aren't, because Blake can be a common last name.
Right. Okay, let's see here. So we have 18, 9, 36, 36. Okay, 18, 9, 36, 36. Okay. So now where do you go? How do you compare against... I would think this is probably going to go in the B tier then.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll probably just like shove it right about here. Right there. That's
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
No. I hate the Kings more than Ducks. We'll put them right there. It really doesn't matter.
But
Okay.
But did you hate the Ducks more than the Kings this year because of?
Oh, because
The
of Bedard Gate, which is
Yes.
that should be investigated by the league, along with a bunch of other things. Yeah, that's a good point. It's been a long time since I've hated the Ducks. I kind of miss hating them, but actually, I want them to be good though. It's more fun for me when they're good and when the Kings.
You can hate them.
Yeah, like I miss my my real rivals. Okay, let's go with so the next one we have 3 guys pictured here. Heatley didn't play with Alfredson as much as Hossa did, so this is going to be Alfie and Hossa. Man, like that team had so many great weapons on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So are we just going Alfie and Spezza in this, or?
Oh, I decided with
going
Alfredson and wait, you know what? I don't even have. I'm sorry, I didn't even notice that it was Spezza here and not Hossa.
Yeah.
Let's go with Alfredson and Hossa. I'm just gonna zoom in on Alfredson.
Okay. I have this. If we're going off of Alfie and Hossa, an A, frankly, because let's be honest. When you think of Hossa anymore, you will think of him forever as a Chicago Blackhawk. His number's retired in Chicago. It's not going to be retired in Ottawa. The way Ottawa basically backstabbed Hossa led to a lot of hatred by the team from Marian Hossa. But fun fact, we can get to watch this duo of Hossa and Alfredsson this August in Marian Hossa's farewell game, where he's playing in Trenton, his hometown team, with bringing in a bunch of his former teammates that he's played with. So Jonathan Toews is going over to Trenton to play on that game. Zdeno Chara is going to be there. Alfredsson and Hossa are going to be on the same team to play on it. It's going to be basically a true all-star, NHL all-star event of legends inside of Slovakia happening.
That's pretty rad.
So I have this as an A for Hossa and Alfie because they are great. They were great together, but Hossa isn't ever going to be known as that senator, even though he played there for the second longest part of his career.
I mean, hell, I was just thinking you could put Alfie and you could attach whoever you want to this duo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to consider, folks, if you want to consider it Spezza, hey, it's fine in my book. All right. I'll give you guys about 15 seconds. But of course, you know, when it came to the Senators, who also had Zdeno Chara, there is one name that can never be forgotten, and that is the great Radek Bonk. Best name ever.
Yeah.
All right. We'll close it out in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. I think this is probably going to fit in the A tier, actually. Oh, there's Dan. A for Hossa. All right. 18%, 63, and 18 here. Yeah, I think it's pretty fair to put them in A tier based on this. Do I want to put them ahead of Korea and Selene? Yeah, that's pretty close. I'm gonna put them because I'll put them right there. That seems about right. Okay, now we get to our holy God. Oh no. We have the Flyers first. This is just against the Penguins. So this is the Flyers. And again, like you could choose if we're doing lines, right? We got like the Legion of Doom line, but in this case, one of the articles that I referenced here has Lindros and Leclerc, which I think is pretty fair because Leclerc, even before he came to Philly, was a monster. So.
I mean, Lindros and Leclerc were, like, especially Lindros and those guys, like, really during what was it, like the 90s and like early 2000s and stuff like that, kind of got the Flyers back on the map, I guess. Because when you think of, you know, the Flyers eras, you think of the Broad Street Bully days, the Legion, or like the Legion of Doom era, sort of like, you know, the 70s and stuff like that. And then you think of Lindros and Leclerc. And then I guess you can maybe say Claude Giroux a little bit, but again, when you think of Flyers history, you think of Lindros and Leclerc, and you think of the, you know, 70s run where they beat the USSR Russian team and stuff like that, and you just think of, you know, but so yeah, I mean, for that I'd probably say like an A or a B, even though they never ended up getting a cup together and all that stuff. But at the very least, they got the Flyers sort of off of the schneid of just being a meddling organization and kind of breathed some life back into that hockey market.
I personally have it as a C. They made it to one cup final together. It wasn't really quick. It was a very short cup final as well. Lindros also had his. It seemed like Lindros and Leclerc did not last long because Lindros did leave the Rangers shortly after Leclerc truly came into the league, where he was more of a dominant threat, in my opinion. So I have it as a C.
I have no strong opinion on this one. I think that if we were talking about actual full lines, this would be a real fun one to rank.
Oh yeah.
But what's cool about of course these guys is that they were just huge, and still they were very skilled too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. 15 seconds for anybody who's yet to vote.
Hey Nick.
Yeah. What's
up? I gotta hop off. In a few minutes. So I was wondering if maybe we could do the Blues now, so I don't miss it.
Yeah, that's cool with me. Unless Mike, I know Mike is probably jonesing to rank the Penguins, but yeah, if you got somewhere to be, we could do that next.
All right, cool.
All right, great. So we're gonna close that out. And Dan, I don't know if you want to join the rankings or join the video call, but I'll put a link here in the chat. All right, so these guys are easily going in A, B, and there's a pretty strong turnout for A, B, and there's also 22% for C. So I think that they'll rank, let's see here, how do they compare, of course, to the last one we did? About the same. Really about the same. So I'm going to put them in the A tier at the very end. Okay. All right, so we're gonna skip ahead right now to the Blues. So we've got two pairings because I did find two duos here, even though McInnes and Pronger weren't one of them. I don't know how long they played together, but we have, of course, the first one that I think a lot of people would think of, and that is Hull and Oates. Kevin, take it away.
Yeah, so these two of the best Blues players of the 90s, of course, pretty much played on the same line throughout those 90s, and Brett Hull, of course, Blues legend. You know him as being a great goal scorer and a great shooter. And then Adam Oates kind of just set him up on passes and was a great playmaker with him. So overall, they made a great duo.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Kevin there on that one as far as like the little knowledge I know of like this era and stuff like that. But I mean, again, when you think of like Blues hockey, this is one of the pairings you think of, especially in the 90s. Like, because would have this been pre-Gretzky or post-Gretzky Blues? Pre. So, yeah, I mean, really don't have a lot of strong opinions on this one either. I know that Brett Hull is one of the more renowned, players like just in St. Louis in general and all that stuff. So, honestly, like an A or B, like kind of middle of the road, in my opinion, because they never really did anything major, but they were still solid.
Yeah, I have it.
Yeah, probably A.
You know what? I actually have it at an A. Are those jerseys? I would not mind seeing this come back.
Yeah.
Really?
That's pretty sweet.
You like it when they have the red in their uniforms?
I used to not like it at all. And I think when they reissued the 1995-96 jersey, or the one that Gretzky wore, when they reissued that in Adidas, I was like, you know what? I'm kind of digging this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. And I like how the red, of course, is used in the St. Louis flag, so it's only fitting. All right, cool. Any other votes? I'll give you guys about 10 seconds.
I could tell. I already know what Blackhawk player is actually behind those two, and Hall and Oates, actually. That would be Dirk Graham, Blackhawk captain at that time.
You know who's in the back of the photo you're saying?
Yeah, that's Dirk Graham.
Dang. Good eye. Shoot. Let's see here.
I could see the mustache and how his helmet looks. That's Dirk Graham.
Well, the only mustache I can name off the top of my head is that of Lanny McDonald. All right, let's close this out then. Okay, so good, that 10th vote came in there. All right, these guys are fixing to probably rank in the S tier. Look at that, 50%. Yeah. So 50 for S. AB is 30. Goat is 20, nothing for the C. So I think S is probably fair. Now, how do they compare against the Richards? Richards are, let's see, Richards are just a little bit ahead, not by much, but I think that's fair. So Hall and Oates go up to the S. And the other one, this was also one of the articles that I sourced, has the tandem of Glenn Hall and Mike Liut.
Yeah, these two good goalies for them in late 60s and 70s. Of course, back then, Mike Liut was a backup pretty much, and Glenn Hall played over him a lot. But they ended up being pretty even in the end, and just overall pretty solid for the Blues.
And these were the guys who took them to the Stanley Cup when they first came into the NHL, if I'm correct.
Yeah, first 3 seasons, I think.
It's just a shame that, of course, they weren't given, they weren't given a cup in addition to the teams that beat them, just because, starting out as an expansion team back then, you were going to get absolutely worked.
Yeah, pretty much. But
Did
even
they win? Oh, sorry. I was just wondering if did they win any of those Stanley Cup final games?
Nope.
No, they got swept every time.
Well, you can't really fault him much for that.
Yeah. I mean, still though, just the fact that they made the Cup finals, within their first couple seasons, in and of itself, is an accomplishment. Especially when you have the established teams of the original 6 era and all that stuff. So, just the fact that even making it to the finals at that time was something to behold.
It's always weird seeing Mr. Goalie Glenn Hall in that uniform because he's known for being a Blackhawk over St. Louis, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
His numbers retired for the Blackhawks and everything, winning a cup with us.
Well, one's to make a comparison there. The weird one for me is Hasek winning a Stanley Cup with the Red Wings.
Yeah.
Speaking of former Hawks, right?
And him almost winning a cup with Ottawa.
Yeah, and he played for Ottawa. Yeah, I always forget that one too. All right, let's see. I'll give you 15 seconds for anybody who's yet to vote. I don't have a strong opinion on this one. But yeah, we got a few teams left. I'm surprised we still got a fairly good crowd here, given it's Friday night, and we've been doing this for just about 2 hours now. So yeah, then what do we have to do next? Pittsburgh. Yeah, those are two very important duos, of course.
Oh yeah.
And oh, there's John. All right, let's wrap this up now. So I'm gonna close out. And let's see. It came in time for the Blues. There you go, John. This is Liut and Hall. Let's see here. We've got 44A. Maybe we have 22 Goat, 22C, 11S. Okay. I'm thinking does this have a chance of going in the A tier? Leclerc and Lindros. This ranks out about the same. Let's see here. We'll check out the Savard and Robinson. Let me take a look at that. God, my handwriting on this is horrible. Let's see. Does that look good? Savard and Robinson, 1854. Yeah, it's about the same. I'm going to put this one right at the front of the B tier. Grades about there. Yeah, that's where it grades. Okay. All right, now here we go. We've got 15 people here for this one, and that's a good thing because we're going to move back to Pittsburgh, and we're going to start with Crosby and Malkin.
I mean, one of the all-time great duos, of any generation. But especially of, I'd say, the previous generation of, the 2000s, Malkin and Crosby have just, again, they revolutionized and sort of helped usher in a new era of the Penguins, because it wasn't that long before that there were even rumors that they might not have even been in Pittsburgh, if I remember hearing right. it took, I think, who was I think Lemieux actually ended up helping kind of keep Pittsburgh in town, and then they draft both Crosby and Malkin. I can't remember, were they both the same year or was Crosby a year after Malkin? But because
they were years separate.
Yeah, but because of the lockout, I think they're both rookies at the same time, weren't they?
No, Malkin came a year later.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Malkin's first season was 06-07. Yeah.
Okay, but still, though, I mean, like I say, one of the all-time great duos. I mean, they helped win, 3 cups. They basically rejuvenated Pittsburgh and stuff like that, and kept the Penguins in town, for lack of a better term, really.
By the way, we also have Bill here. He's a big Avalanche fan and a longtime viewer of the channel, or I guess close enough. Bill, first of all, do you have any thoughts on this dynamic duo of Crosby and Malkin?
Yeah, actually, they are very awesome. It's like Crosby's legendary. Malkin is awesome hero. I mean, when you look at Malkin, I would say that he would probably be up there above a lot of others if he wasn't, injured at times. And a lot of the hockey players, they deal with that from time to time where, just look at Newhook this season. He was on pace to break Gretzky's record, and then he got hurt. So, he get injured. He was just a point per game. He was a point per game, goal per game. He just was on a stellar start, and then he got injured, and then just kind of went on a free fall, and then the other stuff happened in the playoffs. Which I hope Nuke comes back next season, but like I say, it was just that unfortunate thing that happens to Malkin. It happens to a lot of the superstars. They get injured, they have their stuff that goes down with them, but I would put them at a solid A/S, probably within that era, probably within the S for sure. Not quite GOAT, but up there high.
Well, you got to remember with these two players, when the NHL resumed after the lockout, those major trophies were dominated by these two guys and Ovechkin. It was basically a 3-team race for those awards for the most part, until Patrick Kane came along in that sort of era.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then with what you come into, Nick, which I'd like to kind of go over more in detail later in different episodes, is what actually makes a elite or a super elite player, because there's a really fine line that goes there, of all who is elite, who is super elite, who is because you look at Gretzky. Is Gretzky super elite? Well, yeah, and then you just look at some of these other players going back into history, and a lot of the Montreal Canadiens take a lot of the awards on a lot of those super elite players, but I'm sure you have some coming in there. I'm not trying to be on the Montreal bandwagon. That's just my second favorite team.
Oh, is it really?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
Has it always been like that for you, or?
No, it used to be the Sharks, but then they just didn't. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing around. No.
Okay, we can rekindle the old flame in 5 years.
Yeah.
No, I actually was a Hawks fan originally before the Avs came here. And actually, I'm going back to a Hawks fan now. I'm a real Bedard fan, but it's still the Hawks would be my third favorite team. So.
All right, we got 54%. By the way, Jake or Nick, did you guys have anything else you wanted to add with Crosby and Malkin?
I had them at A, to be quite honest, because I get it. They won 3 Stanley Cups. They won 2 of them as back-to-back, going to having 4 appearances, winning 3. That's impressive to say. The thing was, it took them forever to get back to even winning a round in a playoff or winning more than 2 rounds in a playoff between their first cup and their second cup. It took them quite a bit of time to get back to even truly contention. They made it to a conference final in 2013, But before that and after that, it took them quite a bit of time to even truly get back to the top of the NHL.
Yeah,
Good point.
but they still won 3 cups together, though. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't take that away with that, especially when, again, 2 generational talents of the, between, it's like, when you think of the 2000s, you think of Ovechkin, Kane, Crosby, Malkin, guys
Good for
like
them.
that.
That was like the Mount Rushmore of forwards in the 2000s, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, like post lockout for that first 10 years. That's probably what I'm trying to say. All right. Actually, there was a question there. Bill, did you get to watch Patrick Waugh in person at all?
Absolutely, yes. I actually saw his first game as a Colorado Avalanche, and it was actually, I think we lost the game, and it wasn't very good, but at the same time, we actually gelled during that 96 season, and yeah, he did actually turn out to win the Stanley Cup that season, but
That's awesome.
yeah, good question. Appreciate it.
All right. Now we get to Crosby, or not Crosby. Super Mario and Jaromir Jagr.
This is the duo of the 90s. That's
Yeah,
all you have to say.
That's GOAT. 100%.
It's GOAT tier. Yarger, I get it. He's not playing in the NHL, but he's still freaking playing professional hockey. You gotta love Yarger for that. But it sucks you didn't get to see a lot of games with the two because of Lemieux with his injury history and having to battle cancer at one point when these two were at their highest points in the 90s. Because didn't Lemieux take like a season and a half off at one point and Yarger was running it as captain by himself for a little bit?
Oh, I didn't know he was captain at that
Yeah,
point.
he wore the C for the Penguins for a couple of seasons.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that probably would have been around that time then. But
Yeah.
and like I say again, kind of like piggybacking off of what you're saying there, Windy City. Like just again, Lemieux and Yager basically again helped get the Penguins from a pretty dark time. Like again, they weren't the greatest team going up to that point, and then they come in, these young hotshot superstars that just came in and did their thing in the 90s, and not to mention you can't go wrong with that hair. I mean, they look like they should be opening up for like Poison or White Snake or something like that. But anyway, regardless, again, just like 2 all-time greats right there, and 2 reasons why Pittsburgh kind of came on the map again, like really sort of, yeah, basically got on the map and then all that stuff. And
well, one of the interesting points that you'll see here is actually Yager had more points than Gretzky, but you would have to count the International League.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a lot of people talk about that, and people get really mad as a little. I don't want to get any hate mail from anybody, but it was just funny because if you count all the international points and goals and stuff, that Yager actually was the leader in all that stuff, but that doesn't count in the NHL. So,
And now did Yager sign with his a team over there in the Czech league, or
he plays for the team he owns. So I don't even think he needs to sign a contract, to be quite honest. I think he just suits up when he wants to. I know he doesn't play every game in the season with Kladno. He just plays like the home games in Kladno, and that's about it.
And I was going to say that, and that's that ownership. It's not like he retired from the NHL and decided to buy a team. Yager,
he's owned it forever,
right? Yeah, because his father owned it before him, and so and his time with Kladno stretches all the way back to when he was, I think, like 12 years old. He was like playing against, or maybe it was like when he was 14 or 15. He made like the Kladno team, so he and contributing too. So I mean, he's been an icon even before he would be like legally able to drive a car in the States.
Yeah, this is his Kladno jersey from when he was a teenager. This is his Kladno jersey from this year.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, go tier to like honestly go tier to like high S.
Yeah, he's a goat. I'll never forget that, Nick, when Lemieux did that nifty one where he did the between the legs, like top shelf. Like, that was just ridiculous. Like, it's still on the highlight reels from that era.
Yeah.
That was nasty. I'll never forget that.
Dang, I was trying to pull up my cloud. I actually have I'm sure that mostly everybody here has seen it, but I have a full-on video about Kladno's history. Okay, so we've got 11 votes. I'm sure everybody's basically been able to cast it. So we'll take it down to 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. So thankfully they will be in the GOAT tier as well. 18. So they'll be probably, let's see, where were Sakic and Forsberg? These things are important. These guys are grading out, I think, just a little bit ahead of them. What about Orr and Esposito? Yeah, these guys actually grade out just a pinch better than them. Kane and Taves. Yeah, that's about where you can draw the line. It's basically the same. So yeah, they're going to grade right about. We'll put them in between the two Hawks. There we go. All right.
Okay, so one thing I was going to ask you, Nick, about this Sakic-Forsberg duo, they used to do the All-Stars a little bit different, where they would do like Canada versus the world and different stuff. So basically, Sakic and Forsberg were playing against each other on like the different leagues. But what's your thoughts on that kind of change as far as how they do that All-Star setup?
Oh, I think that would be more exciting versus the current format. I mean, the whole like 3-on-3 each division.
Yeah.
I think people would want to. I think people would rather see, or at least our group. I don't know about like the real younger fans, but I think that we would rather see at least East versus West. But I love the idea of like, North America versus World. That'd be fantastic, or at least like have some skills competitions with that or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it just seems like the All-Star game has just kind of gone downhill, and just like, I mean, heck, most people don't even watch it anymore, other than maybe some of the skills competitions. But anyway, yeah, that's a different topic for a different.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick your brain on that, Nick. That was a good point. I agree with you.
All right. So we got the Kraken next, and they've been a team for 2 years. So. Are there any hard feelings if I just stick Matty Beniers and well, I guess I could have done McCann and Eberle, but I was thinking about McCann and Beniers since since McCann had over 40 goals. But is it cool if I put them in C?
Yeah, that's fine. It's too young of a team to really decide.
Yeah, not really a C, just more incomplete.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to look at it. Okay. Now it's my time. All right, we get to these two handsome sons of guns here.
Looks like Bernsey.
Look at this right here. Patrick Marleau had a career of over 25 years, basically. Nearly all of that with the Sharks, and he and Jumbo played together from, I believe, the 05-06 season all the way up until 2016-17. That's a long time. I know they didn't play entirely together the whole time, but really this is from a sort of, I don't want to say like a marketing and branding standpoint, but like really, could you have two players who adore each other as much and yet be so different from each other than Patrick Marleau and Joe Thornton? And yet at the same time, they were drafted. Jumbo was first in 97. Patrick was second. And they got to play over a decade on the same team together and be very influential on the franchise individually and together as a duo. Now, they didn't quite get it done in the playoffs. I know what could have been. But really, when you think about the Sharks and they're over 30 years, I mean, as a fan myself, it's not like I forget about what happened before these two players arrived, but that has so much weight versus, even though they still had some good years before them, or at least some interesting playoff series. But really, you think about Joe Thornton, just the playmaking of him, and Marleau, the longevity that he had in his career, the Iron Man in him. And I just think that these two are, just from a personality standpoint, and how opposite they are from each other, and how just good they look in teal, of course. I mean, I didn't even put up the poll. My bad. I got so damn excited to start talking about them.
Yeah.
Anyway, see, the thing is that it's not Thornton and Marleau. It's Jumbo and Patty. That's how it is.
Patty.
That's how it is in the hockey world. At least I pretend it is. So anyway, that's me. I don't think that these guys belong in S tier or GOAT tier, but the homer in me wants to put them in the A tier. But hey, that's just me. They can't be in C tier though. I won't allow that. Anyway, anybody have any thoughts?
I have them in A tier just because how long of a duo they were together, playing on the Sharks together. Weren't they also on Team Canada for the Olympics in 2010 as well?
You're right. Good one.
So they were also on the same line in that. I have them as an A. Both of them will be Hall of Famers just because of what they were able to accomplish. Granted, they weren't able to win the Stanley Cup at all, but I have them at an A.
Yeah, and I would agree there too. Like A or B, like just because they didn't have the postseason success, but now like just etched in history. When you think of the Sharks, you think of Patrick Marleau and Joe Thornton. Just from their longevity standpoint, just from, even the amount of success they did have together, making it all the way to the Cup Finals in, 2016?
Mm-hmm.
And all that stuff. And then, just the fact that they were drafted together, they've played together, and now I think, now with Patrick Marleau being part of the Sharks front office and stuff like that, I could potentially even see Jumbo Joe maybe joining if he wants to and stuff like that. Just basically, when you think of the Sharks, you think of Patty Marleau and Jumbo Joe. So for that, I have to say, like, again, an A or B, just because they didn't have a lot of success per se with like cups and stuff, but they're still a great duo.
Yeah, I mean, I would actually put them in an A, solid A. When you look at this, like, I don't really see the Stanley Cup success as being that marker of being an elite duo. I would say that they were an elite duo, regardless of playoff success, and I say they're solid A. Like I say, I always like the Sharks, and Nick probably knows I have a Sharks jersey that I wear every time the Avs lose to the Sharks, that I have to wear and show off to my friends. But it's one of those things that when I look at the two players that basically make the Sharks, that's the two players I think of as elite duos.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And, sorry.
Exactly. I was just basically agreeing with Willie there. It's like, again, just two all-time legends, two great guys, two great personalities, and solid A.
Cool. And that looks like that's where they're going to go. We'll close this out in 10 seconds. Troy says loves Chi-Chu. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if Chi-Chu would have had a longer career, then who knows? He could have been on this. He was just such a flash in the pan. I think he scored like 49 of his 56 goals in the 49 games that Joe was there. Something crazy like that. And Patrick, of course, had his number retired at the last season. And the only reason why Joe hasn't had his number retired is because he never officially announced his retirement. But to let you guys know, basically, a ticket rep for the Sharks didn't confirm that Joe Thornton's going to have his number retired, but basically told my friend who's a ticket holder, like, there's going to be something really exciting to look forward to and that sort of thing. So, yeah, and I totally think that Joe has a spot in the front office. I mean, the guy had sold his house in San Jose or in the San Jose area when he went over to Florida, I think. And I mean, when he didn't, stay there after that one season, yeah, he just bought another house. He just came back here. He can't get away from Patty and from San Jose. Anyway, all right,
Please just hope the game's not against the Blackhawks again. Retiring the numbers against the Blackhawks was weird for Marlowe. I felt like they better not do it again against the Hawks, because I don't want to be watching a game till 2 a.m.
Yeah,
for a regular season game.
God, not when our teams are just absolute garbage.
Well,
Do it against the Bruins and make the Bruins have to suffer.
Well, I appreciate you guys suffering through my whole speech about that.
Well, I'm used to it from the 2020 bubble season or 2021 bubble season when the Wild were in the West. So,
all right, we're gonna put them. Let's see here. Where were hosts? 1860. Yeah, actually, these guys grade better. Let's see. Against Korea, Temu, they grade better. Do they? They can't grade. Yeah, this is it. I'm not gonna put him ahead of Stevens and Niedermeyer. That just would not be right. All right, let's see here. Now we go to we already did. Oh wait, did we have one more Blues duo? Oh, crikey, we did. Well, we got John. We got John here. Let us know, John, if you have any more thoughts on this. Actually though, we did already grade 2 tandems for St. Louis, so. It's kind of not fair to have a third one.
Yeah.
Stronger and McInnes are pretty damn good. I can't not put them up here. I'm just going to call an audible and do that. All right. Let's go to the Bolts here. And, of course, we could have done St. Louis and Le Cavalier. It's kind of sacrilege I didn't put them on here. But if I chose one, if I chose one duo, it's going to be Stamkos and Kucherov. Because I think they're a next level versus Le Cavalier and St. Louis as Hall of Fame as they kind of were together.
Oh, yeah. And like I say, I mean, Stamkos is the captain and all that stuff. He's been there since day one. So is Kucherov, right? I'm pretty sure Kucherov was also drafted by Tampa.
He was.
And all that stuff. So, I mean, they basically were 2 spearheads of the, I guess, Tampa Bay dynasty, like the 3 cups in 4 years sort of thing. Even if it was the bubble cup, even if it was the shortened season and all that stuff. I mean, that's still 2 Stanley Cups right there, and they still made it to a 3rd Stanley Cup and all that stuff, only to fall short to Colorado. So, I mean, they're still one of those teams where they still have a lot of good talent and stuff like that, and just between, even just the overall success of both Stamkos and Kucherov, they're both leaders. They're both very solid contributors, even in this day and age and stuff like that, because I know Stammer was the 2008 draft. He was number 1 overall.
He was.
Nice.
And, so he's no spring chicken, even though he's been injured and stuff like that. He still can contribute at a pretty high level on and off the ice and stuff like that. So for me, honestly, I'm leaning towards an S tier just because, again, the overall success, their longevity, staying with the same organization for as long as they have. They both still can contribute on a nightly basis. And, yeah, so for that, I give them an S tier.
Yeah, I have it in S tier. They've been to 4 Stanley Cup finals. Thank God they lost to one to the Blackhawks in 2015. I was scared of that team in 2015, to be quite honest. But, yeah, they've been to 4 Stanley Cups and won 2 of them. Granted, 2 of them have come in kind of interesting situations.
But they've dominated both of them.
Yeah.
What?
The Bolts, their 2 Stanley Cups they've just run everybody over. The Islanders have been a bit of a roadblock.
The Islanders were honestly their hardest opponents they faced. The Dallas Stars and Montreal Canadiens are, in my opinion, not the greatest Stanley Cup finalists when it comes to, say, in the Stanley Cup in the last 10 years. Those 2 probably are some of the worst Stanley Cup finalists, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But They have the S tier locked up, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
I'm
could
gonna
also
have to-
thank Toronto for that, blowing it 3-1 against the Canadiens, because that could have been different too if they would have pushed forward. But
Well, that's Toronto. They have to blow a 3-1 series lead somehow.
yeah, pretty much.
You don't want to get me started on the too many men on the ice thing. 'Cause I think they've had that a couple times happen, and I actually have a joke on my Facebook where I actually have a picture of like a whole bunch of extra men on the ice with both teams, and I think it was like the most amount of men on the ice possible. It wasn't that game. It wasn't the Toronto versus Montreal one, or not Toronto, Tampa Bay. But I was gonna ask you, Nick, where was Kucherov drafted at?
Kucherov was,
like
I think, like. Oh, sorry. For Wendy Nick.
He was a
Like
second
Kucherov-
rounder.
Oh, second
Yeah.
round.
I think it was
So
58 overall.
So when you look at these as number one versus a second round 58, I definitely go with the S tier. There's not been a tandem that's done more with any team out there. I mean, you could make the argument there's a bunch more, but like I say, these two have been solid. I really always like the one with the Stanley Cup where Kucherov got mad about the guy not getting his gloves in time or whatever. But it's really fun to talk about hockey and to talk about these duos. And in the playoffs, there's probably never been anyone that's had more success than these two. Solid S tier for me. Not quite GOAT. I mean, there still could be more of the GOAT going back in history, but yeah, solid S tier for me.
Cool. Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with everybody. I think that's perfectly fitting. Now they didn't get much in the way of GOAT tier, so I'm gonna put him right in the middle of the S tier because it's hard to put him next to Trottier and Bossy. I mean, I guess you could. Yeah, I think that's pretty good company for them. All right, great job, guys. I like the discussion there. I mean, that's just a deadly duo and just amazing. They're gonna have like four. They're gonna have easily 5 Hall of Famers probably out of that group, if not 6, if Sergachev continues in his trajectory. All right. Oh wait, we do have LeCavalier in St. Louis. I didn't even know I put them in here. How do we not?
I have this as an A, frankly, for LeCavalier and St. Louis. St. Louis was the more dominant of the two, in my opinion. LeCavalier had that contract, and then they eventually bought it out because someone's fire alarm's going off of here. But
It's me.
Oh jeez.
Yeah,
it's
my
where
dog starts barking too.
they may have won. They won one cup. The team really fell apart after winning the cup because of this. Because of the
Bill,
lockouts.
can you mute your mic, Bill, so then we don't have to hear
I'm
that?
trying.
Okay. Thanks. Go ahead, Nick.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, because of that lockout season, it led to them basically
Sorry about that.
falling apart so quick and making it difficult for them to get back. Sorry, my dogs are going nuts now.
Yeah, my dog hates smoke detectors too.
I do too. Anyway,
Did Stamkos play with St. Louis early in his career? Asks Dean. Oh boy, I don't know, but maybe you're right. That would make sense because Stamkos was a center, right? So, and John says yes. Okay.
yeah, I think they kind of crossed paths towards the end, like when Stamkos got drafted. But I'd say this is probably an A tier as well. I mean, because were they both part of that 04 Cup?
They were.
So at least they still got a cup with Torts and all that stuff. But it just, in my opinion, as of now, if I had to pick what duo is more Tampa Bay, I would probably have to go with Stammer and Kucherov, just because again they've had more success recently and all that stuff. So
Yeah, the Stamkos, St. Louis, and LeCavier all played on one line at one point.
Wow. All right. I'll give you guys about 10 seconds if you've yet to vote and want to do so. We're getting toward the end of this. We've only got 4 more. Oh, wait. Did I include Gretzky and Curry? I guess I did. All right. We'll close this out. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. All right. Well, I think they're going to go probably in the A tier as well. I think that's pretty fair, given that they had a little bit of turnout for the higher 2. The 04 Lightning, that they became your second favorite team. Boy, Flames fans, they anytime you say 04, they probably just shiver with how close they were to winning that cup in Game 6. All right, so this is going to go probably in the A tier. I don't know exactly where. It's going to be a little bit lower. Actually, yeah, that's about right. What were Patty and Joe? Patty and Joe were... Oh, no, they were S tier. They got a lot more for the S tier. We'll put LeCavalier and St. Louis right about... Yeah, we'll put them right about right here. That's good. Now, actually, they'll go ahead. They won a cup. McInnes and Pronger didn't win one in St. Louis. All right. Next up, we're going to do the... talk about duos. We got the Sedins. Now, they were one game away from winning a Stanley Cup there in Vancouver, but even so.
Well, I mean, when you think of Vancouver, you probably think of the Sedins, at least in modern times and stuff like that, in the 2000s and all that stuff. I mean, drafted together, played together their whole entire careers. They never left each other's side. Vancouver did have some, decent success at this time. I mean, heck, they, like you said, they're one game away from winning it all. And then Boston happened, but we won't go into what happened after all of that. But still, though, I mean, with all that said and done, though, I'd probably say they're a solid A, like a low A, high B, just because, I mean, they did have some success and stuff like that, but it just feels like I don't know. It just, for me, I couldn't put them probably any higher than like a low A, just because, they didn't have a ton of like team success outside of like a couple of years here and there type of thing. I mean, I know that they were more competitive during like the 2010s and like late 2000s and stuff like that, but I would say, yeah, low A.
Yeah, I have them at low A, even though as a Blackhawk fan, I should have them in a C just because that old rivalry in the 2010s, we hated each other from the Hawks. I would say this. At Jonathan Taze's 1,000th game ceremony, the Sedins made a video congratulating Taze, and the United Center Matt Hausers were booing the Sedins during that video for them congratulating Jonathan Taze. That's how much Blackhawk fans hate the Sedins, but I have them at an A. I had respect for them, but not like... I can't see them in an S. I can't see them as like a GOAT tier, but that's how I am.
I think that I kind of want to put them in S just because their story is incredible. And they did win a couple awards. Like, I know Henrik won, I think he won an Art Ross and a Hart, and Daniel might have won a Hart too, didn't he?
No.
Or maybe he won, I think Daniel won something else. Maybe it was just like a leadership award, but I mean, that still counts. And the fact that they retired at the same time, they went into the Hall of Fame at the same time, their last home game in overtime, they actually won the game. Like, all that's just too damn cool. That goes into your legend. So to me, even though they don't have the hardware, even though they weren't like the absolute best players in the NHL at that time, you'll never see anything like it. So to me, I'd probably put them in S. All right, where's the poll at? Let's see. Okay, I'll give you 10 seconds if anybody has yet to cast a vote. And yeah, they're probably going to go in S. Ooh, very close. Close this out now in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Yeah, that's about where I'd expect them to be. So it's basically a tie between S and AB, but they got some representation there for. I mean, I love to see things evened up as best as I can. So I'll put them at the end of the S tier. And that would be, let's see, 33, 33, 25. Wait. All right, cool. Now, the Golden Knights is a little bit tricky as well, because here we're talking about a line versus a duo. The Knights haven't. You could say something about like Stone and Eichel, but the thing is that Eichel's barely been there. So to me, if I'm going to choose two players, I don't know if I'm going to choose between Carlson and Riley Smith, but either way, it has to include Jonathan Marchessault. So you can say either Carlson and Marchessault or Smith and Marchessault. I would think at least.
I think it's Marchessault and Carlson, to be quite honest.
All right, we'll do that then.
Well, I mean, they won the Stanley Cup in just their like 6th year of existence. I'm pretty sure all 3 of them were part of the original Misfits.
They were.
Yeah, that's the Misfits line.
So, yeah, I mean, all said and done, though, like they, fulfilled the promise of getting the Stanley Cup in like 6 years. 3 players who are basically cast away and, left for dead, for lack of a better term, and stuff like that all came together and found their mojo. And I mean, very easily, it could have been a case of 2 cups in 6 years, but nothing was going to stop Ovechkin from getting that cup in 2018. So, but yeah, I mean, with that said, though, like I say, it's still relatively young and stuff like that, but they do have a decent amount of success. So I'd probably put it in the middle to like back end of A tier, just because I haven't seen, enough of them to be like S to GOAT tier. But in my opinion, they still belong in that A tier because, again, they're just cast-offs. They're misfits, that all came together and just helped create, hockey, like really gave like the desert hockey scene, something to be proud of outside of Arizona, which, even at that time is still in cahoots and all that stuff on whether or not they're even going to be in Arizona and stuff like that. And yeah, they have something special down there. I'll be curious to see in about 8 or 9 years once, their careers wind down, just where everything ends up. So for me, I'd say middle of A.
I would say one thing. I know that we're talking about Marchessault and Carlson. You can look at it the other way too, as Marchessault and Riley Smith, because those 2 guys were both part of the Panthers, and they joined the Knights the same year. So like they kind of have been there through the whole ride up until right now when Smith got traded. So just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah. I have it as an A. It's not like a star-studded duo. It's not one that will be intimidating, in my opinion. So I have it as an A because it's been a successful duo of Carlson and Marchessault. Where he's ended up winning the Conn Smythe, and it seemed like they are really good friends after seeing what happened at that Stanley Cup parade with Carlson not knowing what the heck he was saying, and Marchessault basically cut in to try and save it.
That was hilarious, actually.
Yeah,
I'm a Sharks fan. I thought that was super funny.
Yeah.
They had to carry Carlson off the stage. That's another thing.
Yeah. But the best drunk Stanley Cup celebration is still the Capitals in the fountain. In the freaking fountain.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I will still say the greatest Stanley Cup speech is Corey Crawford's over anyone else's.
Yeah, that one's great. It is exceptional. It stands alone almost. All right. So yeah, we'll close this out in. Well, I think we've basically got everybody's vote.
Looks like it looks like it's an A.
Yeah.
How it's ranking.
I'm gonna put it at the end of the A tier. I think it's deserving in the sense that over it took 6 years, and that's really not long at all, obviously, for an expansion team. But I mean, like in terms of the actual star talent, I mean, Marchessault, you could say, could be in that conversation, especially after the Stanley Cup. Carlson, of course, had himself a 43-goal season, and he's still a very good player. But yeah, when you compare them against like Lindros, Leclerc, Hossa, Alfredson, right there, it's a little bit of a separation there. But I still think that I don't have much of an issue putting them in A at all. Okay, and then we have we'll probably forego Gretzky, Curry, since we already did Gretzky and Messier. So we're gonna do Wheeler and Scheifele to get to the the keg stands with the Stanley Cup. Yeah, Wheeler and Scheifele with the Jets, because that would be our last team.
No Ovechkin and Backstrom.
Holy God, I thought I had a picture of the two of them. Oh wow, we don't actually have a Capitals one now. How did I? Let me see here. Did I not have? I did not have Ovechkin and Backstrom. Yeah, that's not good. Ovechkin and Backstrom, they're at least S tier.
And they're in S tier.
Okay, cool. They're like, I put them in the front of S tier.
Yeah, I would say they're in like the high S tier just because of how well and successful they are.
Uh-huh.
Thanks for pointing that out, man.
Or nothing else, we could even use that last picture as like Ovechkin and from two instead of.
Okay, I already know where I have these two guys ranked in Scheifele and Wheeler.
Go on.
Well, it just seems like they might be the issue between everything that's caused the Winnipeg Jets.
Bingo.
And I have it as a C. They really aren't truly a successful duo. And it seems like it's led to the cancer in the locker room between everything breaking and falling apart, people wanting out of Winnipeg. I have to I get it, it's recent bias, but I'm just saying it's a C.
I agree with you 100%, Windy City.
I would have said B earlier on in probably like a couple of years ago, but it just seems like Scheifele and Wheeler may have been the main issues behind everything falling apart in that organization.
Oh yeah, I wholeheartedly agree there. Because to be fair, on the ice, if we're just looking at an on-ice thing, I mean, they were good, they were decent. I mean, they did make a couple of conference finals, but as far as actual accolades and stuff like that, I mean, they just never really got it together. Basically, it's like the Winnipeg Jets teams and stuff like that could just never find a way through. And then on top of that, Line A wanting out, Dubois, PLD wanting out, and all that stuff. And then
Hellebuck wants out.
Yeah, Hellebuck wanted out, and who knows who else wanted out? I mean, Paul Maurice did nothing and stuff like that, and it was just so.
Paul Maurice basically quit because he was fed up with the locker room.
Exactly. And with all that said, it's like it was just so toxic and stuff like that. And it just over the last couple of years, it really finally, came to head, kind of like a bad middle school locker room with an Axe bomb. You remember those days? Axe body spray and stuff like that. It was just it was not good. Let's just put it that way. So
Yeah.
for that, I have to put it as a C tier, because of that, but also just they never really did a whole lot on the ice together. I mean,
Yeah.
they were never really up for any awards, really. They never really got their team like really deep and stuff like that. I'd argue Hellebuck was probably more of a reason why they really had a lot of success there, but
I don't know. You go back about 5 years ago, they were putting up numbers probably as good as just about any top line in the NHL. With they were pretty potent for a couple of years.
They were, but it just seems like everything has fallen apart around that organization, and it seems like they were the two culprits of causing it. I don't want to be saying anything to say for against the two guys. Hell, we don't know what really is going on behind it, but it honestly does feel like Scheifele and Wheeler may have been the issues because they did strip Wheeler from his C. They at one point did strip Scheifele this season of the A at a couple of games this year. I noticed he was not wearing the A. So I kind of have to say by where I see stuff going on like that, there's an issue.
Exactly. And like you say, other than those couple years where they're really putting up points, it's not like Winnipeg really has done anything in the 2.0 Jets era. I mean, other than, like you say, that one phantom Western Conference final run where they basically got the brakes blown off of them by, I think it was Vegas?
Yeah.
Then, of course, they got the brakes blown off of them by Vegas this year. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I know that we got some people, a few people have put them in BC or in AB, excuse me. I know I just stuck them in C right now, but like, let me just see the percentages here. How do they grade versus like Saros and Rene? Take a look at that one. Oh boy, so hard to read my chicken scratches here. Come on. I don't know. 2020. Yeah. That seems fairly fair. I can't put Wheeler and Scheifele ahead of the Stahl brothers. Barkov and Huberdeau, you could put them about on the same page. Like Barkov, Huberdeau, Mika, and Panarin and Scheifele and Wheeler. Like I think that's kind of like all on a similar level, right? Like they were very good, absolutely, and that was for a number of years. But it's like they haven't been able just to quite get their team over that hump. So I figure that's kind of a fine placing for them. All right. Well, holy God, this has been going on for 2 hours and 45 minutes. So I think we've reached the end of this conversation. Again, I'm sorry that we didn't have Backstrom and Ovechkin, but I don't know. I just put them at the front of the S tier because like that just seems like a fairly good landing spot for them. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me for all this time here. And again, we're going to have a stream tomorrow too. So 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific, excuse me. We're going to rank cities where the NHL could expand. So we'll talk about like Houston, Atlanta, Quebec City. I might even throw in Hamilton there. Some other crazy places, Kansas City, Sacramento. I've got like 25 different cities, and we'll do tier rankings just like this.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Well, God, I'm surprised that people want to stick around so long. Thank you so much, guys. And been really busy on the sudden death sports front because the last video just absolutely kicked ass. So I need to publish more frequently there. So I've been working on that stuff. Although I have started some work on a video for the channel over the next few days, and that's going to be on the best rebuilds since the salary cap era. So there will be more content. I just basically have to force myself not to sleep, and everybody will be happy. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great night, and I'll talk to some of you again real soon.
All right.
Have a good one.
Later.
Take care.